motion strategies. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, that's your motion, and it's expected that then you have to prepare slightly better than that when moving it, because you need people to understand and follow you when you are moving the motion. I approved it because it's a very good motion. I think, Honorable Waluke, you need to, while moving it, bring material which will inform the House. It's a good motion. Honourable members, next order.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
Honourable members, the following questions are deferred at the request of the members. The question by the member for Funyula constituency, the Honourable Dr. Wilberforce Ojiambo Oundo. And the question by the member for Suna West, the Honourable Peter Francis Masara. At their request, those two questions are taken out of the order paper and deferred to such time as they will be present. So we start with the question by the member for Bomachoge Borabu. I said Suna West, not Suna East.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to ask question number 114 of 2019 to be answered by the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Irrigation. Part 1 of the question, could the Cabinet Secretary provide existing policy guidelines regarding buying of tea leaves from farmers by tea factories, and in particular, the Mara Tea Factory located at the border of Kisii and Naroko counties? Question number 2, Mr. Speaker, what steps is the ministry taking to ensure that the numerous challenges faced by tea farmers are addressed? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The question is referred to the Departmental Committee on Agriculture and Livestock to schedule the time when the Cabinet Secretary will appear to respond. Honourable members, before we move to the next question, allow me to recognize the presence in the Speaker's Gallery of students and pupils from the following institutions. In the Speaker's Gallery, Al Hikma Academy from Embakasi East Constituency, Nairobi County, and Mweki Primary School, Roiro Constituency, Kiambu County. And the following who are in the public gallery: Tenderfeet Primary School, Dagoretti South Constituency, Nairobi County; Oloserian Primary School, Narok North Constituency, Narok County; Kasala Secondary School, Kitui South Constituency, Kitui County; and Dhuita Primary School, Githunguri Constituency, Kiambu County. They are all welcome to observe proceedings in the National Assembly this afternoon. Honourable members, the next question is by the member for Gilgil Constituency.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question 116 of 2019 to the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government. 1, is the Cabinet Secretary aware that one Honorable Pauline Maina of identification card number 246-40362, a member of Nyeri County Assembly, was physically assaulted and injured in Arusha, Tanzania, on 9th May 2018 by a fellow male member of the County Assembly of Nyeri, representing Kirimukuyu Ward? 2, could the Cabinet Secretary give a progress report by the investigating agencies regarding the incident and state what action the police have taken to apprehend and prosecute the suspect in the assault incident? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Referred to the Committee on Administration and National Security to schedule the appearance of the Cabinet Secretary. The next question is by the member for Kamukuji constituency. The Honorable Yusuf Hassan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand to ask question number 117 of 2019, directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government. Kikomba Market in Pumwani Ward in my constituency of Kamukunji has been frequently hit by outbreaks of fire. One, what was the outcome of the investigations carried out by the National Police Force into the fire in Kikomba Market that destroyed goods and properties worth millions of shillings on the 28th of June 2018? And when is that investigation report going to be made public? Two, how many people have been arrested, questioned, or brought to book in relation to the outbreak of that particular fire and the subsequent fires that have destroyed large parts of the market? Three, what measures is the ministry, and in particular the National Police Force, putting into place to provide safety and protection to the traders, customers, and to protect properties in Kikomba Market, and in particular the issue of fire safety? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Referred similarly to the Committee on Administration and National Security to prioritize the appearance of the Cabinet Secretary to respond. The final question is by the nominated member, David Sak Olesankok.
Honorable Speaker, my question number 118 of 2019 goes to the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government. One, can the Cabinet Secretary confirm that there are at least 5 police roadblocks in a stretch of 9 kilometers along the Limuru-Maimayo Road, inconveniencing motorists as well as leading to road accidents and traffic signals? Two, could the Minister consider having enough parking lots along the road to ensure that vehicles stopped for inspection by the police are parked and inspected away from the road? Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Similarly referring to the Committee on Administration and National Security, the committee to prioritize the appearance. Honour members, there are supposed to be some statements sought by, a statement sought by the Honourable Captain Retired Didmas Wakesa Barasa Mutua.
Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order number 44, Section 2, subsection C, I wish to request for a statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security regarding the proliferation of fake currency scams commonly referred to as wash-wash in Kenya. Honorable Speaker, currently there have been increased cases of illegal production of fake currency in the country, where a gang is operating a fake currency racket, popularly known as wash-wash, and the same group appears to be highly connected and above the law. The gang is swindling millions of shillings from unsuspecting Kenyans under the pretext that they can double their currency. Honorable Speaker, media reports indicate that security agencies have recovered fake Kenyan and foreign currencies worth billions of shillings in a residential house, linked to one of the suspects that were recently charged in court for impersonating His Excellency the President. Consequently, innocent, hard-working Kenyans continue to fall prey to the scheme, and their plea for justice seems not to be heard. I am concerned that the Directorate of Criminal Investigations is yet to investigate this thriving business, which is destroying the livelihood of Kenyans and impacting negatively on the Kenyan economy. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I seek a statement from the Chair, Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security on the following. One, measures that the Ministry of Interior and the Coordination of National Government has taken to investigate these illegal activities. Two, the number of suspects arrested and prosecuted with regard to the production of fake currency. And lastly, measures taken to curb this illegal business. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. But you say that there's something called wash. Or did you say wish-wash? Barasa, you say the fake currency notes are called wash.
Yes, Honorable Speaker. It's called wash, Honorable Speaker. Wash, coming from washing, that you wash and then it doubles.
Well, if you look at the statement, it's put in quotes. It's in inverted commas. Leader majority.
Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 44, subsection 2A, I rise to give a statement on behalf of the House Business Committee for business appearing for next week beginning Tuesday, March 19th, 2019. Honorable Speaker, the committee met on Tuesday and this week at the rise of the House to consider business for next week. The House is scheduled to consider the report of the Committee on Appointments on the vetting of the nominee for appointment as Cabinet Secretary for the Ministry of Education. Thereafter, we will consider in the Committee of the Whole House the County Government Amendment Bill number 2, Senate Bill number 7 of 2017, the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 51 of 2017. Mr. Speaker, we will also consider various committee reports throughout the week, including the report on the Departmental Committee on Communication, Information and Innovation on the inquiry into the legislative and regulatory gaps affecting competition in the telecommunications subsector. 2, the report of the Departmental Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations on the meeting to promote and popularize the ratification of protocol on the free movement of persons and its implementation roadmap, among many others. And lastly, the report of the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works, and Housing on the ratification of the revised constitution of the African Civil Aviation Commission, if we don't conclude it today. Honorable Speaker, committee chairpersons considering Senate amendments to various bills, including the Committee on Lands, Committee on Agriculture, and Committee on Transport, I encourage to table their reports on the bills to enable the House to debate from an informed position. Similarly, those committees with pending treaties, agreements, and protocols should expedite their consideration and table their reports. Mr. Speaker, in accordance with the provisions, question number 63 from the Honorable Owen Baya, question number 75 from Honorable Gabriel Kago, question number 79 from Honorable Michael Mushira. Cabinet Secretary for Health will appear before the Health Committee on Thursday, 21st March 2019, to answer questions number 50 and 62 from Honorable Joshua Kandie and Honorable Anthony Tom Olwoch. And lastly, the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government will appear before the National Security Committee on Tuesday, 26 March 2019 at 11 to answer questions number 49 from Honorable Captain Rueda Obo, question number 56 from Honorable Yusuf Hassan, question number 69 from Honorable Joshua Kandie, question number 70 from Honorable Joseph Tanui, and question number 92 from Honorable Charles Njagua Kanye. Honorable Speaker, the House Business Committee will reconvene on Tuesday, 19th March 2019 at the rise of the House to consider business for the coming week. I now wish to lay the statement on the table of the House today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Kadiani, what's your point of order?
Thank you, Chair. Actually, we have the same point of order with the honorable members. You gave a ruling yesterday, Mr. Speaker, on the issue of dressing in this house. Our members are supposed to be dressed. And I think one of the issues that we agreed on is probably the religious bit and how we should, as gentlemen, be dressed. Now, on the headgear of religious leaders, we can see that there are those that are Muslim and can wear those headgears, and the females. Now, my question is the Honorable Didmas Baraza, who is not a Nigerian, wear that attire and that headgear in the house, Mr. Speaker?
Honorable Didimas Barasa, you just read a request for a statement. I didn't see you in that headgear. You know that you can use when you appear on television, TV shows. But now here you are bringing another dimension. And these are some of the ones that I was referring to in the communication of yesterday. So you must remove that headgear here, when you are here in the chamber. You can wear it out there and in public barazas. No, there's no debate. If Honorable Barasa, you will have to either withdraw from the chamber. It doesn't. No. It has not been. No. Now everybody. Honourable members, we don't want people to begin now telling us this is from this sect. The next thing you are going to be told, this one has become a village elder or a clan elder, and is supposed to dress in a particular way. Now, I mean, this is going to be a bit difficult. So, I want that member to say, I have a long statement I want to read. If this, can you tell that to me? Let me hear. Now, honourable members, I'm trying to allow members to come in. Honourable Mulolwa, is that Mulolwa? Mulolwa, member for Voi. Please make your way in because I have a long communication here. No. Honorable Angwenyi, why are you scaring the gracious lady? Now, members, this communication relates to the question of the admissibility of the recommendations of the report of the Public Accounts Committee on its examination of the report of the Auditor General on the financial statements for the IEBC for the year ended 30th June 2017. Honourable members, you recall that on Thursday, 7th March 2019, and before debate on the motion for the adoption of the same report on the examination of the Auditor General's report on the financial statements for IEBC, the leader of the majority party, the Honourable Eden Duale, rose on a point of order, seeking direction from the Speaker on the admissibility of one of the recommendations in the report. His point of order relates to the general recommendation number 3 of the report, and for clarity, I quote, "To that end, the Commissioners, Chief Executive Officer, are the directors who are involved in the unlawful procurement should vacate office immediately upon adoption of this report to allow for much needed reforms to be effected to restore public confidence in the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. Close the quotes. Honorable members, according to the leader of the majority party, since the recommendation seeks the removal from office of the IEBC commissioners and the staff, it expressly flouts the provisions of Article 251 of the Constitution of Kenya on the procedure for the removal of a member of a constitutional commission, and Article 236 of the Constitution, which guarantees public officers protection in the exercise of their duties. It was therefore his view that the House should not proceed to make a determination on the impugned recommendation. Honourable members, at the time the matter was raised by the member, you will also recall that no less than 19 interventions from other members of the House, both in support or opposition to the points raised by the leader of the majority party, were recorded. In the ensuing debates, the leader of the minority party, the Honorable John Bandi, the minority party whip, the Honorable Junaid Mohammed, the chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee, the Honorable Opio Wandai, the chairperson of the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, Honorable William Cheptumo, the Honorable Dr. Otiende Amolo, the Honorable Eden Keinan, the Honorable Dr. Chrysanthus Wamalwa, the Honorable Ngunjiri Wambugu, the Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, the Honorable William Kamket, the Honorable Jared Okello, the Honorable Dido Raso, the Honorable Bashir Sheikh, the Honorable Dr. James Nikar, the Honorable Kangogo Bowen, the Honorable Kemani Kuria, the Honorable Peter Kaluma, the Honorable Jimmy Nuru Angwenyi, canvassed various points of view. At the close of the debate, I undertook to give a considered ruling on the matter raised and to give the House to guide the House on the important question of the consideration of the report containing the said recommendation. From the point raised by the leader of the majority party and the ensuing debate, I have isolated the following issues as requiring determination. 1, the extent of the mandate of the Public Accounts Committee under Standing Order number 205 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, as read together with Standing Order number 197 on the limitation of the mandate of committees. 2, whether a question on the constitutionality of a recommendation of the House should be left for determination by the House through a vote or potential amendment. 3, the extent of the mandate of the House to review the conduct in office of a state officer and initiate their removal from office under Article 95 of the Constitution vis-a-vis the removal procedure under Article 251 of the Constitution. Number 4, the extent to which the House or its committees may delve into disciplinary matters of staff of a constitutional commission or an independent office. And 5, whether the findings and recommendations contained in the report by the Public Accounts Committee concerning the Auditor General's examination of the financial statements for the IEBC are admissible. Honourable members, on the first issue, the Public Audit Act 2015 and the standing orders provide adequate guidance on the scope of the mandate of the Public Accounts Committee and the limits of its exercise of such mandate. Standing Order number 205, subsection 2 states, and I quote, the Public Accounts Committee shall be responsible for the examination of the accounts showing the appropriations of the sum voted by the House to meet the public expenditure and of such other accounts laid before the House as the committee may think fit. Close the quote. A clear reading of the Standing Order and the Public Audit Act reveal that the primary role of the Public Accounts Committee is that of interrogating the accounts of the expenditure of public funds appropriated by this House. The examination of public accounts by the committee is informed by the reports tabled by the Office of the Auditor General on the use of public funds. Necessarily, the work of the committee therefore includes holding to account any public officer, and in particular to ensure prudent use of funds appropriated by Parliament, and to clarify any queries raised by the Office of the Auditor General pertaining to such use or otherwise. Where the committee, after affording all concerned parties an opportunity to be heard, is of the view that the queries raised by the Auditor General have not been explained to its satisfaction, it recommends to the House appropriate remedial measures in accordance with the law. Honourable members, standing under 197 limits the deliberations of a committee of the House to only the matters falling under its mandate, unless the mandate is extended by a resolution of the House. Standing under 197 provides, clause 1, and I quote, "The deliberations of a select committee shall be confined to the mandate of the committee, and any extension or limitation of that mandate as may be directed by the Assembly, and in the case of a select committee on a bill, to the bill committed to it and relevant amendments. 2, in the exercise of its functions, a select committee may not consider any matter that is not contemplated within the mandate of the National Assembly under the Constitution." Close the quote. The import of this standing order is not to cut the deliberation of any matters of concern noted by a committee. The essence of this rule is to prevent a committee from misdirecting its efforts to the detriment of its core work. In relation to the work of the Public Accounts Committee, consideration of the day-to-day administration of public bodies would clearly be a misdirection of effort. The key test in determining whether the findings and recommendations of the committee in the instant case fall within the mandate of the committee would be the extent to which they address or seek to address any unresolved audit queries raised by the Office of the Auditor General in accordance with the law. In this regard, and addressing myself to the point raised by the Leader of the Majority Party, a finding or recommendation by the Public Accounts Committee in the report tabled before the House, which expressly falls outside the mandate of the committee, would be inadmissible. This dispenses with the first issue. Honourable members, in prosecuting his point, the Leader of the Majority Party, while urging the Chair to determine the admissibility of the recommendations of the motion on the report before the House, could proceed to debate it, did refer to the provisions of Standing Order number 47, subsection 3, which provides, and I quote, "If the Speaker is of the opinion that any proposed motion, A, is one which infringes or the debate on which is likely to infringe any of these standing orders, B, is contrary to the Constitution or an act of Parliament without expressly proposing appropriate amendment to the Constitution or the Act of Parliament, C, is too long, D, is framed in terms which are inconsistent with the dignity of the House, E, contains or implies allegations which the Speaker is not satisfied that the mover can substantiate, or F, calls for the commitment of public funds for which no provision is made in the annual estimates as adopted by the National Assembly. The Speaker may direct either that the motion is inadmissible or that notice of it cannot be given without such alteration as the Speaker may approve, or that the motion be referred to the relevant committee of the National Assembly pursuant to Article 114, Clause 2 of the Constitution. Honourable members, ideally, therefore, before any business comes to the House, it is approved by the Speaker on the basis of its constitutionality, among the other criteria for admissibility. Standing Order number 47.3, supra, is an extension of the requirement placed on the Speaker under Articles 3 and 10 of the Constitution to respect, uphold, and defend the Constitution. Honourable members, the question that arises now is whether the motion by the chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee, the Honourable Opio and I, having been approved and the report of the committee having been tabled, the chair can consider the issue of the constitutionality of the findings and recommendations of the report. You will recall that I have previously guided the House that, notwithstanding the approval of any business by the chair under the standing orders, the issue of constitutionality can be raised by a member at any stage of consideration of any business before the House. The only condition such a request would have to meet is that it must be specific in order to capacitate the chair to revisit the issue with precision and to cure a procedural or constitutional anomaly. Let me swing my chair to allow those members to make their way in. Please do it quickly. The members making their way, make your way quickly, please. If you are coming in, please make your way into the chamber quickly. Honourable members, I continue. In this respect, the chair has had the occasion to relook at the arguments advanced by the leader of the majority party and noted that he indeed raises a constitutional issue which should ideally be dispensed with before the House proceeds with the consideration of a report, with the risk of making a resolution in vain. Honourable members, you will also recall that following the request, various members of the House urged that the report be allowed to proceed to debate and that any anomaly or otherwise be left to the House to decide. I am fully cognizant of the fact that the decisions of this House are expressed with the endorsement of the votes of a majority of the members. Whereas I hold no vote, the Constitution and the standing orders of this House oblige me to address any questions of unconstitutionality at any time and not fold my arms and preside over deliberations. I do agree that the possibility exists of the required majority of members voting against the recommendation in issue, or a member proposing an amendment to expurge the recommendation with the support of the required majority. But what if neither of the two events come to pass? I think the House would stand indicted, not just because of the untenable recommendation being adopted, but also for the failure on my part to act to arrest a patently incongruous outcome. It is therefore my considered opinion that a question on the constitutionality or otherwise of business ought not to be left to a vote by the House or potential amendment, but should be resolved by the Speaker once and whenever raised. Honourable members, the point raised by the leader of the majority party and the interventions by other members thereafter crystallized the third issue of the mandate of the House with regard to the removal from office of state and public officers under the Constitution, pursuant to the provisions of Articles 95 and 251 of the Constitution. Article 95 of the Constitution outlines the role of the National Assembly with regard to the issue at hand as follows, and I quote, clause 2, the National Assembly deliberates on and resolves issues of concern to the people. And 5, the National Assembly, A, reviews the conduct in office of the President, Deputy President, and other state officers, and initiates the process of removing them from office. And B, exercises oversight of state organs. Close the quotes. On its part, Article 251 of the Constitution provides a specific procedure for the removal from office of a member of a constitutional commission or the holder of an independent office. The article provides in clauses 2 and 3, and I quote, 2, a person desiring the removal of a member of a commission or of a holder of an independent office on any ground specified in clause 1 may present a petition to the National Assembly setting out the alleged facts constituting that ground. 3, the National Assembly shall consider the petition, and if it is satisfying that it discloses a ground under clause 1, shall send the petition to the President. Close the quote. Honourable members, the bone of contention as discerned from the submissions made by members with regard to the point raised by the leader of the majority party is whether the removal of a member of a constitutional commission, in this case the IEBC, can be legally initiated through a resolution of the House. Honourable members, on this matter, I am constrained to agree with the view that the only procedure that the Constitution envisages for the initiation of the removal of a member of a constitutional commission or holder of an independent office is through a petition to the House in accordance with Article 251 of the Constitution. As ably noted in the submissions by the Honourable Peter Kaluma, the provisions of Article 95, Clause 5 are couched in general terms, whereas those of Article 251 are specific to a particular class of state officers. Indeed, as members are aware, the House only initiates the removal from office of the President, the Deputy President, and a Cabinet Secretary through a motion filed by any member under the specific provisions of Articles 144 and 145 through to 150 and 152 of the Constitution, respectively. Honourable members, conversely, specific provisions of the Constitution provide removal procedures peculiar to other state officers. Members will note that the Constitution provides specific methods of removal from office of other state officers as follows. 1, members of Parliament may only vacate office in specific circumstances, including recall under Article 103, and upon determination by a court by declaring that the seat is vacant under Article 105, Clause 1, Paragraph B of the Constitution. 2, judges and magistrates may only be removed from office via a petition lodged with the Judicial Service Commission under Articles 168 and 172, Clause 1, Paragraph C of the Constitution. 3, the Secretary to the Cabinet is appointed with the approval of Parliament, but may only be dismissed by the President under Article 154 of the Constitution. 4, the Director of Public Prosecutions is appointed with the approval of Parliament, but his or her removal may only be initiated via a petition launched with the Public Service Commission under Article 158 of the Constitution. And 5, a county governor may only be removed from office in line with a procedure prescribed by legislation enacted pursuant to Article 181 of the Constitution. Honourable members, if the House were to be persuaded by the argument that it does rely on Article 95, Clause 5 of the Constitution generally to initiate the removal of IEBC commissioners, the House must also convince itself that the same argument would hold in the event any committee of this House were to table a report recommending the removal of President, Deputy President, a Cabinet Minister, a judge, a Member of Parliament, a Governor, or the Director of Public Prosecutions in similar fashion. This would clearly be illogical and procedurally untenable. In addition, Section 10 of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Act 2011 provides the procedure for the removal of the Chief Executive Officer, which can only be done by the Commission on, among other grounds, gross misconduct by the officer. Section 31 of the same law gives power to the Commission to prescribe regulations for termination of appointment of officers of the Commission. The employment of such officers may also be governed by the relevant employment laws, including the Employment Act on dismissal of employees. In this regard, the committee's recommendation relating to the removal of staff offends the provisions of Sections 10 and 35 of the IEBC Act and the relevant regulations in respect of other senior staff of the IEBC. The argument that Article 95, Clause 5 provides an avenue for the initiation of the removal of a member of a constitutional commission also patently fails with regard to the procedural safeguards afforded to state and public officers in the exercise of their public duties. As was noted in the ensuing debate On the point of order, on the point raised by the leader of the majority party, the procedure set out under Article 251 of the Constitution grants the House a specific role to play in the process of the removal of a member of the Constitutional Commission or holder of an independent office. And under Clause 3 of that article, the House must determine whether a petition discloses any ground for removal before transmitting the petition to the President, recommending the establishment of a tribunal to investigate the facts. The role of the House in the processing of a petition for removal, therefore, does not result in a final determination of the matter. All the specific methods of removal from office outlined in the Constitution grant a fair hearing to the affected state officers who are given prior notice of the case for their removal, a fair opportunity to answer it, and the opportunity to present their own case. This, honourable members, mirrors the rights to fair administrative action and fair hearing as set out in Articles 47 and 50 of the Constitution, and the protection of the public officers as outlined in Article 236 of the Constitution. It is therefore my view, my considered opinion, that the mandate of the House to review the conduct in office of a member of a constitutional commission or holder of an independent office may only be done in accordance with Article 251 of the Constitution when it considers a petition filed for the removal of the affected officer, specifically stating the grounds upon which it is proposed to the holder of the office be removed. I commend the work of the committee in their interrogation and presentation of grave allegations attributable to the commissioners and staff of the IEBC. However, the committee has proceeded to utilize that information to propose the removal from office of the commissioners and staff in an entirely untenable manner. Honourable members, I shall now address myself to the admissibility of the findings and recommendations in the report tabled by the Public Accounts Committee. As you will recall, the point raised by the leader of the majority party, though directed at one of the recommendations of the report, in essence sought that I declare the findings and recommendations at pages 7 and 130 of the report as inadmissible in their entirety. As I've noted in this communication, a finding or recommendation would only be inadmissible if it addresses itself to a matter outside the mandate of the committee, or if it offends the professional standing order number 47, subsection 3. I have perused the report of the committee at the cited pages. From my perusal, I note that the second paragraph of general recommendation number 3 accords with the concern raised by the leader of the majority party that the report recommends the removal of the members of staff of a constitutional commission in a manner not contemplated by the Constitution. Apart from a portion of this recommendation and a section of the report titled, and I quote, "Basis for committee recommendations for vacation of office," close the quotes, which on the face of it is intended to explain the thinking behind the recommendation. Even a cursory glance at the other recommendations of the report does not reveal any relation to the concern raised by the leader of the majority party and several other members. I note that the general recommendations and section 4.0 of the report on, quote, "basis for committee recommendations for vacation office," close, are replicated both at the beginning and at the end of the report. Honourable members, in summary, it is therefore my considered finding that, 1, a question on the constitutionality or otherwise of business ought not to be left to a vote by the House or addressed by an amendment, which is also subject to a vote, but should be addressed by the Speaker once it is raised at any point. 2, that the mandate of the House to review the conduct in office of a member of a constitutional commission or a holder of an independent office may only be exercised in accordance with Article 251 of the Constitution when it considers a petition duly filed for the removal of the affected state officer. 3, that a finding or recommendation by the Public Accounts Committee in the report tabled before the House, which expressly falls outside the mandate of the committee, or one that offends the provisions of Articles 47 or 251 and Section 10 of the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission 2011 would be inadmissible. 4, that the ones, and I quote, to that end, the commissioners, chief executive officer, and the directors who were involved in the unlawful procurement should vacate office immediately upon adoption of this report to allow for much-needed reforms to be effected to restore public confidence in the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission, close the quotes, in the general recommendation number 3 appearing at pages 4 and 127 of the report, insofar as it relates to the IEBC commissioners, are inadmissible. This is because the text is recommending a mode of removal from office of constitutional office holders in a manner that is not contemplated in the Constitution. 5, that sections 4.0 and 34.0 of the report relating to, quote, basis for committee recommendations for vacation of office appearing on pages 6, 7, 129 and 130 of the report, insofar as it relates to the IEBC commissioners, are also inadmissible. 6, that the second paragraph of paragraph 3 of the general recommendation number 3 appearing at page 4, which states, and I quote, to that end, the chief executive officer and the directors who are involved in the unlawful procurement should vacate office immediately upon adoption of this report to allow for much-needed reforms to be effected to restore public confidence in the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission, is also inadmissible. This is because while this section is supported by admissible observations of the committee, the recommendation is proposing the removal from office of staff of a constitutional commission in a manner that is neither contemplated by the Constitution nor supported by the relevant statute, providing for the manner of vacation of office of such staff and governing their discipline. 7, that the observations and findings of the committee with respect to the staff of the commission having been found to be admissible. Emphasis, honorable members, the observations and findings having been found to be admissible, I will now expect the chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee to take into account this communication and move the motion for the adoption of the report in an appropriately amended form pursuant to Standing Order number 48 of our standing orders, dealing with amendment of notice of motion. And 8, that the cited text of General Recommendation number 3 and sections 4.0 and 34.0 of the report, having been found to be offensive to the Constitution and therefore inadmissible for debate by the House, are forthwith expunged from the report. The House shall make no reference to either text in its consideration of this report. Honourable members, as I conclude, may I clarify that expunging the offensive parts of the report is not to mean that the entire report is discredited. As a matter of fact, the rest of the report is admissible and will proceed to consideration by the House upon rescheduling by the House Business Committee. The committee has duly executed its mandate satisfactorily and carried out commendable task of taking evidence and compiling their report to the House. That is an accomplishment worthy of credit by this House. The House is therefore accordingly guided. I thank you. Honorable Mali, what's your point of order?
No, Mr. Speaker, obviously I can't challenge the chair's ruling. Mr. Speaker, having listened to your ruling and considering what was in this report, Mr. Speaker, if it was a human being, I was going to say the heart has been removed, kidney, liver. So this report is basically a skeleton, so to speak. I was just wondering, couldn't we then ask the chair to withdraw it and go and either reconstruct it, do some surgery, or we just, because I don't think it's going to be of value for this House to debate this report, because the whole report is now mutilated, so to speak.
So, Mr. Speaker, my request was if the chair or the committee could withdraw this report, because I don't know what actually we are even going to be confused. Because, Mr. Speaker, when we don't know which sections we will be referring to, which ones we should not refer to, because Mr. Speaker, you'll agree with me that your ruling was also very long. And I know some of us have the ability to understand what you actually asked to be expunged. But many of us, really, Mr. Speaker, will not even follow what should be expunged. So we'll be ruled out of order every minute you start talking, and you'll be referring to sections that have ordinarily been expunged. Mr. Speaker, this report, it is precedent setting. This report has remained a shell without any substance. In fact, there is no meat in it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
But, honourable members, just before I allow more comments, and more particularly the Honourable Wandai, let me explain. The net effect is the recommendation purporting to recommend, to suggest that the commissioners would vacate office upon adoption of this report is the one that is expunged. The recommendation that the staff would also vacate office, some of the texts, insofar as it suggests that they would be leaving office, is also removed. But to the extent that the committee has noted and made observations and findings touching on those members of staff is admissible. Those findings and observations are admissible. And therefore, they can be used when it comes to implementation, seeking implementation of the report. And that is a distinction, because the method of removing officers serving in other offices is provided for by the respective statutes that established those offices. In this case, the IEBC Act of 2011 provides a mechanism of recruitment, discipline, and dismissal. So to the extent that this committee has made quite some critical and serious findings and observations, whoever is the implementing authority now can take this report and act on it, only to that extent. Therefore, I don't think whether really we are the soul, as the Honorable John Bandy said, the soul is gone. No, it isn't. And in any event, this house also must act constitutionally. The danger, that there is a net effect of what I am saying with regard to the commissioners. Nobody here is saying that the commissioners have not committed any crimes. But as the law, the Constitution indeed provides for the mechanism. The proper mechanism would be to bring a petition. Were we to adopt this report in this form with regard to the commissioners, and the report says they vacate office, who is going to enforce that? There's nobody to enforce that, because even if you took it to whomever, they'll just tell you what is the report of the tribunal set up, as a tribunal being set up in the first instance, pursuant to a petition having been considered by the House. And if we adopt it this way, and then we purport to bring a petition to the same House that has already condemned, isn't that person going to serve a double jeopardy? The same minds that will have expressed themselves on this, being expected to now consider a petition. There's a real danger of that person, whomever it is, going to court, and you can almost see for sure the court saying, no, you can't go, why are you going to the same place? So we are avoiding a situation whereby the House is also meant to act in vain. This ruling does not in any way absolve anybody of any wrongdoing that they may have been found to have done. And therefore, I think there's still a lot of substance in this report. And I think I would recommend members to read the report, go to not just the recommendations, because the problem we have is we take the easier option, the easier route of going to the back page, reading the recommendation, and then forming an opinion you are going to oppose, you are going to support. Please read the report. It is very detailed, and it's fair. No, Honorable Junet, you still want to?
No, Mr. Speaker, first I want to thank you for guiding the House in accordance with the Constitution. But Mr. Speaker, as a member of that committee, I had a suggestion that in conformity with your ruling, Mr. Speaker, because what I am seeing here that is now before us is a body which has lost a lot of organs, as my leader has alluded to. It has lost the heart. No, the heart I think is there. It has lost all the kidneys, all the eyes, all the ears, even no, that's my contribution. So, Mr. Speaker, I was requesting if the committee can take back the report so that they can bring back in conformity with your ruling and with your guidance, so that we can even relook at the recommendations. We can relook at the recommendations that, and it is brought back the recommendations that are in conformity with the Constitution. That if the House cannot recommend, the committee cannot recommend vacation of office, maybe they can recommend now investigations to be done by relevant organizations like the EACC and the DCI, and come up with some kind of solution on that line. Mr. Speaker, if we debate this report after your ruling on the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, we will be debating, Mr. Speaker. I can guarantee you, Mr. Speaker, we shall be debating a dead body. There is nothing here to debate, Mr. Speaker. We have been told we are out of, Mr. Speaker, we shall not attend a burial function, Mr. Speaker, Matanga, to discuss a dead body, Mr. Speaker. This report is dead, Mr. Speaker. You have only not announced the burial date, Mr. Speaker. What I was expecting from your communication was the burial date, but I didn't hear it. So that's why I want to relook at it, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the matter is dead, Mr. Speaker, it's dead.
See also, members, let's also appreciate that the report also contains other recommendations, not just this. Not just this. And because, let's not just focus on one. And all of what we are saying is, please, due process. Due process. That's what we are saying. Honorable Kangogo Bowen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, thank you so much because of your guidance and direction on this bill. And Mr. Speaker, we must be a house of records, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, the ruling you've just given, it's going to go a long way to chairs of committees and also members of various committees, Mr. Speaker, who have become mischievous in their reports which are tabled before this House. Mr. Speaker, it was yesterday that you again ruled against where a report was mischievously brought into this House concerning a doctor. Mr. Speaker, there is a problem. Yes, there is a report. There were two reports which Mr. Speaker ruled yesterday about some two reports which found in.
Just a minute. Now, are we dealing with this?
No,
You
Mr.
see,
Speaker.
now, Honorable
Mr. Speaker,
Kangogo,
I'm just
can we dispose of this one? No, not. We can't. We're doing this, doing the
Yes,
other.
thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm saying, Mr. Speaker, it is important that this report, the committee led by Chair, my good friend, Mr. Speaker, if they can withdraw this report from the House, and then they go back as a committee, Mr. Speaker, so that they can write again their report well in conformity with your ruling, Mr. Speaker.
But why you members are avoiding to deal with the real issue? The Honorable Junet just actually alluded to it. The appropriate recommendation. And the report is still the property of the House. You can make those amendments to make those recommendations. Well, I mean, why withdraw? This report, I mean, the committee has spent a lot of time, and indeed, it's not just about this. And this, we're just saying that we conform with the Constitution. And that can be done through an amendment. Because debate on the report has not commenced. Yeah? Please, why don't I, I needed to allow the chair of the committee to, yes.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to thank you for the very wise ruling you've given. But Mr. Speaker, as I've said time and again, that as a committee, the Public Accounts Committee, in presenting this report to the House, had done its part. And as you rightfully said, this report now is the property of the House, to be dealt with in the manner the House deems fit. And the ruling is part of that work of the House. Mr. Speaker, unlike most members in this House, I happen to understand that report like the back of my hand. Mr. Speaker, as you rightfully said again, that report has got a lot more other recommendations and findings rather than the 2 or so that have been addressed in your ruling. Mr. Speaker, I will be seeking 2 things. One is that the Office of the Clerk makes enough copies of your ruling so that we can go through it and understand it. And 2, upon understanding your ruling, Mr. Speaker, I will be seeking to convince my committee members if we can be allowed to bring further amendments to some specific recommendations that have been left intact. And I want to give an example. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy that you have found no fault with our findings and observations. Not even one. But we've only found fault with some of the recommendations, which offend some sections of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, some of the recommendations you have made point to asking the relevant investigating agencies, the EACC and the DCI, to carry out further investigations with a view to prosecuting persons who will be found culpable. I will be seeking to make further amendments to give proper, specific timelines for those investigations to the DCI and the DCC. Mr. Speaker, yes, so that those officers, be they commissioners or staffers, who are found culpable can be dealt with according to the law in the manner, in the quickest way possible. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, I'm happy with the ruling, and I thank you. Thank you very much.
Sufficient copies will be made by the clerk. The Honorable Ishongwa, what is? And I thought the Honorable Wadai actually it's almost closing the matter. Hmm? And I suspect what the Honorable Wadai then would be requesting House Business Committee is not to reschedule the debate immediately, so that no, just a minute. Because you said you need to have a meeting with your committee members. You look through and make those other specific, because you are saying something which almost similar to what the Honorable Junaid, who is your member, also suggested. It looks like you could be of the same mind frame.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
In fact, I think I'm attracted to even the suggestion about timelines of investigations. It's important that if those agencies who actually have the capacity to investigate are also given timelines so that it doesn't become open-ended. Honorable Ishongwa.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, I think your ruling is indeed Solomonic. Because indeed, Article 47 of our Constitution gives everybody, including those commissioners and staff, the right to fair administrative action, Honorable Speaker, and that ruling speaks to that. But Honorable Speaker, I was taken aback by what both the leader of minority and the minority chief whip, who are not ordinary members of this House, Honorable Speaker, because these are the chairman and I think the director of elections of the ODM party. The chairman of the Public Accounts Committee also happens to be a ranking member within the ODM party. And this, Honorable Chair, Honorable Speaker, if you listen to John Buddy speak as a leader of minority, he spoke to the heart, the kidneys, and all other vital organs of the body of this report, Honorable Speaker. The same language is what the chief whip, who is also director of elections in ODM, spoke about. Key organs, and spoke about the body being dead. And it was not lost on me, Honorable Speaker, that maybe or probably ODM as a political party was trying to use their chair of the Public Accounts Committee to advance
Thank you,
a
Mr.
political
Speaker.
agenda.
Mr. Speaker,
Let's hear the point of order from the Honorable Kajwang.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to acknowledge the member for Kikuyu, a man who is gifted in what he knows best. But Mr. Speaker, if we go the direction we are going, we are either going to do two things. Either we are going to debate a report which has not been moved, or we are going to throw poison into something which we do not know because it has not been moved and we have not discussed it with fairity of mind. Mr. Speaker, is it in order that we as members of the plenary proceed the way we are when the chair has already given what I think is a reasonable course of action to take? Should we proceed the way we are going, and we're going to destroy something which is very important? And remember that Public Accounts Committee is a watchdog committee. In fact, it's a constitutional committee of this House. If we are going to waste public funds and then come back and throw it in the face of wananchi out there, is this really right being done by members of the Assembly? Mr. Speaker, I think this is where we should stop and then go the direction that the chair has sought.
Honourable members, I think I don't even require further comments on this, because in any event, it is my communication, and the comments that have come through, and more particularly from the chair of the committee, appear to be quite positive. So I think I want to agree with the Honourable TJ Kajwang. Let's not deal with this matter here in plenary, because we could easily, as he rightly observed, throw some poison. No, but you know, the Honourable Ishungwa already started, now the moment, and I was going to stop him when he started the issue of this one is chair of this one is director of the other, this one is director. Now the House now will start looking at this matter, which has not been moved, in the context of chairman and director of this and director of the other. I think no further comments on this. Let's give the committee time, and the chair has requested that the communication be circulated, so that when they meet as a committee, they will know how to move forward. Failing which, then, as I've already directed, the debate will proceed with those parts, those recommendations, and some of the texts expunged in the manner that I've indicated in the communication. So there's not because there's no. In fact, there should be no debate on the ruling. There should be no debate. No, there should be no debate on this ruling, because I think we are getting into. Let's move to the next order. Let's move to the next order.
Order number 8, special motion, approval of nominees for appointment to the National Government Constituencies Development Fund Board. Question to be put.
See, because you are not reading the standing order, no, Honorable Kenan being a ranking member, he just walks, so he will never know where at what point we are in. That's why he was making his way out. But being a ranking member of the House, no, I think he looked at the order paper from his mobile phone. Honourable members, debate on this motion was concluded yesterday, and what remained was for the question to be put, which I hereby do. That taking in, yes, I need to, yes, I ascertain that there is quorum. That taking into consideration the findings of the Select Committee on the National Government Constituencies Development Fund in its report on the vetting of nominees for appointment as members of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Board, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, March 12, 2019, and pursuant to Section 15, subsection 1, paragraph E of the National Government Constituencies Development Fund Act 2015, and Section 8, subsection 1 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, this House approves the appointment of the following persons to the National Government Constituencies Development Fund Board. 1, Mr. Robert Nyariki Momanyi Masese. 2, Ms. Irene C. Masit. 3, Mr. Abdiaziz Bule Yaro. 4, Ms. Isabel Nyambura Wayaki. 5, Ms. Maria Lekoloto. 6, the Honorable Peter Edick Omond Anyanga. And 7, Mr. George Kasatua Ole Meshuko. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it. Yes, the Honorable Odhiambo Akoth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I wish to apologize for raising this point of order. I know I should have seen you earlier, but unfortunately, because of our duties as members of parliament, I was actually following up a case earlier of a man who was supposed to have died, was supposed to have been killed by a 23-year-old girlfriend. So I was assisting the wife to go undertake the postmortem. But unfortunately or fortunately, the man has resurrected in his home in Rangwe one hour ago. So, Mr. Speaker, because of that, I've just come from Chiromo Mortuary, and we have just learned the man has resurrected. But that is not the issue, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to have brought a motion for adjournment of the House on a matter of national interest. And Mr. Speaker, because I'm late, I just want to put on notice that I'll bring it next week, because the women will not, out there will not be happy with us if, as the women in this House, we don't raise that there are issues.
Honorable Memusi, surely, now the honorable, are you just walking with bottles of water? It's like you're already in the Kajiado Central. and you know you're not one of the shortest
and
members.
And he's a tall man. Mr. Speaker.
And you see, the Honorable Odhiambo is raising a number of issues, including people resurrecting. So, very well. Let's fast here.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The man has resurrected in Rangwe constituency. So we are happy that he's resurrected, but Mr. Speaker, if indeed he is alive, I would actually urge the police to take serious action against, because the wife was here creating drama with a 6-month-old child in my office because the husband was supposed to be dead.
Honorable Millie, now, you know you are likely to cause embarrassment to some people who are not in the chamber. So why don't you are saying that you had an issue you would have wanted to raise?
Okay, sorry, Chair.
And you know, whenever you have that, you always do.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I will go back to the issue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the issue of concern to me I wanted to say that I'll bring next week, but the women will not forgive us if we don't raise it today, because there's an issue of reproductive interest for women, which is even reported in BBC. On sanitary towels, Mr. Speaker, that is affecting women.
You know, Honorable Millie, you cannot pretend to be explaining why you are late and then proceed to want to prosecute the same. If you are late, you are late. Notwithstanding that you may have been in Chiromo Mortuary or wherever. I mean, you are just saying you are late. And I know that is a matter you will be able to raise properly. But now, to say it today, and you are saying that there's a woman somewhere who was doing this or the other. Now, let's proceed to the next order. Next.
Order number 9, the Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly Bill number 11 of 2019, second reading.
Chair, budget.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yes,
Honorable
the point
Speaker.
of order, Leader of Majority.
BPS.
Speaker, the member for Kikuyu, he was accusing Honorable Junet of not being a surgeon and a quack. But he's now behaving outside the standing orders. When a bill is sent to a committee for the first reading, the committee must table a report on that bill. The chair has not tabled the report up to now, Mr. Speaker. And the Speaker is out of order. Because how do we debate? And he cannot use the PPS report to as a, this is a bill. This is a division of revenue bill, a very important bill that divides revenue between the two levels of government. So, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Chair of Budget is out of order, and he was busy. He thought you were busy with your Solomonic communication, and Emilio Odambo's boyfriend and girlfriends and mortuary. Some of us, we are very articulate. We listen. So, Mr. Speaker, ask him to table the report, then we go to the second reading of the division of the revenue. Minus that, Mr. Speaker, I ask you to rearrange the order and withdraw it. Stand down.
Chair Budget, where is the report?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I think the Leader of Majority is well aware that the division of revenue bill, its precursor is the BPS report, and we tabled a report on the BPS, and it is the BPS that gives rise to the division of revenue bill, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, the Leader of Majority is also aware of the very tight timeline that I indicated yesterday that we have with this division of revenue bill, because, of course, the Leader of Majority is aware because I did articulate, and most members because I did articulate the reasons here yesterday. And the fact that we had already tabled a report, the BPS report, which is what has given birth or given rise to the division of revenue bill. And everything that is in the division of revenue bill, Honorable Speaker, is as it were in the BPS report that we tabled last month. And therefore would beg your indulgence to be able to proceed.
Are we discussing BPS? But in terms of the law and our own standing orders, the resolution of the House on the budget policy statement does not is not the one that gives rise only to the division of revenue bill. Indeed, that the resolution, when it goes to the National Treasury, is incorporated in the estimate. It incorporates the estimates that are expected to come later. So, Honorable Junet, you want to?
Mr. Speaker, the Budget Committee Chairman is my friend, but Mr. Speaker, he can't go away with this one. Mr. Speaker, the budget policy statement is a policy statement that we discuss here to inform Treasury on how to go about the estimate. This is a bill, Mr. Speaker. What is before us is a bill. Yeah. Just like any other bill, Mr. Speaker. Yes. It's only that the name is Division of Revenue Bill. Yes. So, Mr. Speaker, we need a committee report which has even public participation. Short of that, yes, Mr. Speaker, there is no Division of Revenue Bill that is going to pass this out. Mr. Speaker, this is a house of procedure. Mr. Speaker, this is a house of procedure and standing orders, Mr. Speaker. And it is very clear that every bill at the second reading has a report of the committee. Yes. Mr. Speaker, the chair of budget sometimes behaves like he's part of Treasury, Mr. Speaker. And he thinks that he is the Deputy Minister for Finance, the Deputy Treasury Officer. Mr. Speaker, let him do his parliamentary work. Stop. I'm told he has a small office in Treasury nowadays. You must give us a report of the committee. Yeah, I'm told like that. I'm told now when the minister is writing statement as a CID, you are the one holding brief. I was told like that the other day, but I'm not sure you can confirm. But Mr. Speaker, he must give this House a committee report so that it can inform us what the public have said about this revenue bill. And public participation is a constitutional requirement in all bills now. So the chair, you have failed in your duties now. Initially I thought you will become deputy president in 2022 for your friend. Now I'm reducing you to MP for Kikuyu. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, I think to the extent that the Honorable Junet is raising the issue of public participation, because it is a constitutional and mandatory requirement that we must do public participation in our legislative work. So I think whatever the nature or extent of the participation, I think, and that is what perhaps would inform the report. So that if, for instance, somebody were to argue that what the Division of Revenue Bill contains is not sufficient in the manner that it proposes to do the vertical allocations, then the committee will have a report something to explain to the House. So I think what we do for now, Honorable Ishongwa, we will start down this business. And so we stand down that business. You are committed to do what they are supposed to do once the bill is referred to a committee. Then we move to the next order.
Order number 10, motion, Senate amendments to the Kenya Roads Bill, National Assembly Bill number 47 of 2017.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, I beg to move that the Senate amendments to the Kenya Roads Bill, National Assembly Bill number 47 of 2017 be read a second time. And Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the Chair of Transport Committee because at least he has tabled the report. Unlike his colleague, the Chair of Budget. Yeah, so we must thank Honorable Posing because he has tabled the report. Because Ichungwa decided not to table and use a shortcut, and the Speaker is good. We must be precise to procedures. So, Mr. Speaker, by way of introduction, the Speaker received a message from the Senate regarding the passage of the Kenya Roads Bill 2017, which originated from the National Assembly. And this bill, Mr. Speaker, was passed by the Senate on the 14th of February 2019 with amendments, and these amendments currently stand committed to the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing. And Mr. Speaker, we passed this bill in 2018 April or March. Now it's coming back to us. Yes, and the Senate stuck with that bill for 1 year. And now they want to tell us that they want to be the upper house. For you to be the upper house, you must earn it. Speaker, I want to go to where we will reject most of the amendments. And I concur with the committee. Speaker, Article 112, subsection 1B of the Constitution provides that if the House passes an ordinary bill concerning counties, and the second House passes the bill in an amended form, it shall be referred to the originating House, which is today. So that's why the bill is here. And it's against the premise of Article 112 of the Constitution that, Mr. Speaker, now I beg to move that the House, through the Committee of Transport, considers the Senate amendments. And, Mr. Speaker, we settled with the ministry, we settled with the committee, and most of the amendments by the Senate are unconstitutional. They are very unconstitutional. I will say it, and the chair will say it. And, Mr. Speaker, if I start with, the committee relied on the provisions of Article 95 and 96 of the Constitution, which provide for the roles of the National Assembly. And the Senate further, the committees were guided by the fourth schedule of the Constitution, which provides for the distribution of functions between the national government and the county governments. So, Mr. Speaker, the Senate overlooked one provision of the Constitution, and that is the fourth schedule. If you look at the fourth schedule, it's clear the functions between the national and the county governments. So the Senate just decided that They can swipe things. It's not. That's violation. And the Speaker, that is why when the President returned a memorandum on the health laws, yes, most of the amendments they have brought are unconstitutional. We'll go one by one. So in the first place, they overlooked the fourth schedule, which clearly demarcates the function of the national government and that of the county government. So the committee has proposed a rejection of the Senate amendments which go against the Constitution. For instance, the committee has rejected the Senate amendments that the Cabinet Secretary shall consult with the Council of Governors in regulation making. So, Speaker, it's illegal. The Statutory Instruments Act allows only the Cabinet Secretary to bring regulations to this House, not even to the Senate. So why should the minister consult Council of Governors? It's not provided for in the Statutory Instruments Act. So I support the chair. That is illegal. And this rejection is guided by paragraph 18, part 1 of the fourth schedule of the Constitution, which expressly provides that the construction and operation of national trunk roads, as well as standards for the construction and maintenance of roads by counties, is a function to be performed by the national government. So there's no way a county government can be part of standardization of roads. There's no way a county government or the Senate can decide on how roads are constructed, how operations are done. The Speaker, so the regulatory making process allows for a public participation stage, during which time the Council of Governors will attend that public participation. So if they want to take part in the regulation-making authority, the Council of Governors, let them appear before the committee of Honorable Gladys Boss-Sholei, who is the chair of delegated legislation. But Honorable C.S. Macharia, we are telling you, with the House that speaks with authority, you have no business consulting Council of Governors. Yeah, they can be consulted at the IBEC, which is chaired by the Deputy President. Yeah, but no minister will consult them. The Speaker, the committee also rejected the Senate amendments to include 2 officers serving in the office of the county senator as members of the Constituency Roads Committee. It's very ridiculous. So, since the 10th Parliament, the Constituency Roads Committee was a function of members of Parliament of the National Assembly. So you're telling us, the Speaker, and this is what we call people squatting. The Constitution is very clear. If you are a senator, your functions are very clear. And the Speaker, I even saw Honorable Minister for Interior, Fred Matiang'i, asking an advisory opinion by the AG on whether some ministers should appear before the Senate. If the AG give an opinion, I'll support that. Minister for Foreign Affairs, Minister for Interior, Minister for Defense, Minister for Education outside ECD, Energy, DPP, EACC, they have no business going to the Senate. Those are not county functions. So they are saying they want 2 of their staff at the senator's office to be members. It's ridiculous. We have rejected that, and the chair has rejected it. Mr. Speaker, the committee also recommends to agree with some of the amendments, but let me go to where we disagree with them. It's important, Mr. Speaker, to know that considering the Senate amendments to the bill shall also be guided by the procedure set out in Standing Orders 146, 147. There are a number of issues which are unconstitutional, and the chair will give it out. For example, we have agreed with them in conformity with the Constitution. For instance, the committee has agreed to amend Clause 4 of the bill to include county road agencies to be governed by guiding principles. That money they get from the national government, they can have their own agencies to run it. Yeah, and it is the business of the senator to go and monitor and evaluation, and we have given them money. They have been given money, 500 million, to be divided by 47 senators. For M&E, yes. They can as well go and buy people mandazi, and meet the elders, as we build schools and the hospitals. And Mr. Speaker, if you look at Senate amendments to Clause 56 of the bill, which removes county roads from the ambit of roads in respect to which the Cabinet Secretary may impose road user charges. The committee agrees with the Senate that the imposition of road user charges on county roads may not be sustainable. Mr. Speaker, there is also an amendment by the Senate, very outrageous, that they are saying they want to differentiate between the road and the road reserve. They are saying the road reserves belongs to counties. They can put their billboards, they can put their kiosk. Mr. Speaker, if you go to my constituency, a lot of people's property were destroyed because they built it on road reserve. So they were waiting for Kenya to build to destroy those properties, and now it belongs to the county government, where they can put some kiosks, and they earn some little revenue, which means, again, the local revenue does not even end up in the national kitty. So we are saying road reserves belong to the agencies that run the roads in our country. So that if they want to build a road, they are the ones to discuss with KPLC, the water people, the fiber optica, to remove and align it to the road. So road reserves must be protected. And Mr. Speaker, most of these amendments, and I really want to urge the Senate, most of them are constitutional, so that we have nothing against them, but we must tell them where they go wrong. So, Mr. Speaker, these procedures are set out very, very clearly in Standing Order 146, 147, 148 of the National Assembly Standing Orders. It's also important to know that there is going to be a likelihood, the moment we reject, there will be a likelihood of the formation of a mediation committee, which could guide both houses in the coming up with agreed version. And I have agreed this particular bill, I will be the leader of that mediation team. Yes, so that, and the chair of the transport. So that also on the other side, I ask the leadership to be in the mediation, so that at the end of the day, we agree and this road should be passed. I beg to move and ask Honorable Posing, the chair of, you know, I told you forget about Kenya Airways. You deal with the Senate amendments. Kenya Airways. Yes, sir, I told him Kenya Airways until the Speaker makes another Solomonic communication on what we raised last Thursday. Nobody should touch KQ, so I beg to move and ask Honorable Posing to second.
I thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to second my leader of majority. Honorable Speaker, before I delve into this one, I would want to say in moving that honorable members, as I walk along the corridors, have been asking me about their next tranche in terms of repairing of roads, our normal care money, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, I would like to announce that that is on the way to your constituencies, honorable members. And by 21st, you will get it in your local offices. That is the regional office. That is the money from KERA. So that is being done. The KERA is very efficient. And that is timely, honorable members, because you will also be going for recess, and you'll have a lot of time, honorable members, then to proceed. Honorable members, and honorable Chair, Speaker, these amendments that we considered, and I want to thank my committee for looking at it very critically. These amendments from Senate, honorable members, Speaker, most of them are unconstitutional, as the leader of majority said. My responsibility then, Chair, therefore, let me go to the details so that then honorable members can appreciate. So let me start with what honorable leader of majority said. They attempted unconstitutionally to amend third schedule of our bill. So what did they say? They said, these honorable members, Mr. Speaker, that the Constituency Roads Committee shall comprise of the following. A, 2 members from respective Constituency Development Fund, that is CDF. B, 2 officers serving in the office of the county senator. C, County Executive Committee member for roads. D, representative from Kenya National Roads and the rest. So that is already unconstitutional, Honorable Speaker. That goes against Article 95 and Article 96 of the Constitution. That separated the houses. There is a Senate under Article 96, National Assembly under Article 95. So what is being attempted through this back door is to amend those two sections of the Constitution, Honorable Speaker, which is illegal, by trying to merge both houses. So where will be the Senate? Where will be the National Assembly? That was actually the mischievous part of it, Honorable Speaker, that's unconstitutional. Two, they also went on to suggest, even this house they suggested the membership of that committee for honorable members to have objective debate. That is in 17.3. The Constituency Roads Committee shall designate 2 of the members appointed under Section 2A, that is from the CDF office to be the chair, and from the office of the senator to be the vice chair of Roads Committee. That's unconstitutional, honorable members. They even went on to suggest, even in the procurement, that 2 officers from the office of the senator. So, Honorable Speaker, my committee found this one very unconstitutional and a way of trying to amend the Constitution from the back door in merging the houses. So, what is the reason of Senate? And this is a dangerous trend if you were to use, Honorable Speaker, because then they will ask to be members of CDF. They might also ask to be members of my committee, Honorable Speaker, because then it is trying to fuse both houses through the back door. So my committee, Honorable Speaker, rejected that. Honorable Speaker, going to clause 2, they also attempted to amend clause 2. And in clause 2, Honorable Speaker, they reduced the definition of public roads. And we rejected that, Honorable Speaker. So they left thoroughfares and other uses of roads. We rejected that. Honorable Speaker, on clause 4, which is on guiding principles, Honorable Speaker, we agreed with them, as Honorable Leader of Majority said, because then they said they brought in the county authorities. Remember in this bill, Honorable Speaker, National Assembly was so fair to create even agencies at the county level. This is where they should have even introduced an amendment here to oversight them. We would have helped them. That was going to be very effective, but they have refused and they have left it out, Honorable Speaker. So in that one, we agreed. Clause 7, Honorable Speaker, as I mentioned, we agreed, we disagreed with them. In terms of composition of the board, the composition of the board, Honorable Speaker, we had agreed as a House that we don't need to concentrate boards with a lot of these authorities like LSK. They brought in back again LSK, and my committee, Honorable Speaker, rejected that should not be the way forward. Then, because then LSK will be everywhere. So why do you bring in a board, LSK, to a roads board? This should be engineers. Where will LSK, in due respect to lawyers here, where is law here? In this, and the wisdom of the House was that we should not go that direction, Honorable Speaker. We rejected. Clause 9, Honorable Speaker, is talking about road standards. And what happened is, Speaker, Senate, in their wisdom, then introduced again consultation with the Council of Governors. What Honorable Speaker, Leader of Majority was rejecting. And yes, Speaker, we rejected. Reason being, this is against fourth schedule of the Constitution. Standards of roads, Honorable Speaker, according to the Constitution, has been left to the responsibility of national government and therefore the minister and the national government. So where does governors come in? Governors have been provided, Honorable Speaker, with 2 opportunities of consultation. One at IBEC and one chaired by the President, Honorable Speaker, in terms of summit. That is where they should actually concentrate on. I do not know whether they don't raise their issues there, and now they want to muscle the National Assembly. I think that was unconstitutional, Honorable Speaker, and we rejected. Honorable Speaker, they also attempted to amend clause 10 of our bill. And this clause 10, Honorable Speaker, is talking about classification of national trunk roads and county roads, Honorable Speaker. And what they attempted to do was to bring in again counties and brought in the issue of consultation. Consultation, Honorable Speaker, without law and procedure is one way of saying that project will not be done or will not even arrive to a conclusion, Honorable Speaker. And in that spirit, my committee rejected. They went on, Honorable Speaker, to attempt to amend clause 12. And in this clause 12, Honorable Speaker, is talking about the establishment of Kenya National Highway Authority. They also, the same is replicated in clause 14 and 17 in terms of agencies. Why we rejected, Honorable Speaker? They brought in LSK. LSK to be in Kura, LSK to be in Kera, LSK to be in, no, we rejected that, Honorable Speaker. We don't know what they were coming to do. They're just coming to fill numbers. We rejected, Honorable Speaker. You know, we don't want to dominate this organization. And the policy And the thinking of the committee, Honorable Speaker, is they have their role, they have their responsibilities, they have their offices, they have their functions. So when they are given their functions and they leave their functions and come to other people's offices, so will LSK be working? We don't think if they will be working, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, my committee rejected and asking you, Honorable Speaker, the House to agree with us. As I move, Honorable Speaker, they also attempted to amend Clause 20 of the bill, Honorable Speaker. This Clause 20 is talking about boards of Kenya National Secondary Roads Association, which I have explained. They went, Honorable Speaker, to touch on Clause 44. And in this Clause 44, Honorable Speaker, is talking about powers to enter into and alter positions of pipes and so on. And again, Honorable Speaker, they brought in again consultation with counties, and we rejected that work will not proceed. They proceeded to attempt to amend Clause 47 on the powers to take over. Again, consultation, we rejected. In that reason, Honorable Speaker, that will delay. Clause 52, in the county roads and bridges, we agreed with them, Honorable Speaker. We agreed with the Senate amendment because...
Honorable Kosing, you have 1 minute and 34 so for your
No,
plan.
I don't have 30 minutes.
I can tell.
Okay. So I have 1 minute. Right, so then, Honorable Speaker, I agree because what we have made, it is the property of the House. Our report is on the House, our guiding members. And I think we are in agreement, Honorable Speaker, that we will reject these amendments and we go for mediation. But now let me conclude by saying something on mediation, which is constitutional. Last Parliament, Honorable Speaker, I brought an issue about this mediation. According to the Constitution, mediation is equal numbers from the House. Equal numbers from the House, Honorable Speaker, when you look at a National Assembly, in terms of numbers, in relation to Senate, it doesn't work. It should have been pro rata, Honorable Speaker, so that we have, if it is 5 members from National Assembly, then we have 2 members from Senate, so that we can be able to proceed. Or, Honorable Speaker, then what we do, if it's a bill originating from National Assembly, we have more members from National Assembly. If it's originating from Senate, we have more members from Senate, so that we can have progress, Honorable Speaker. Can you imagine a bill so important like this, and we disagree at the mediation level, and then it dies? This bill started in 2015. How can it die just because of 4 or 3 members, Honorable Speaker? I think this is something we need to look at as a House as we move forward, Honorable Speaker, as we amend the Constitution. With those many remarks, I beg to second.
Very well. The member for Pokot South for seconding, quite in order. Honorable members, I now therefore propose a question, which is that the Senate amendments to the Kenya Roads Bill, National Assembly Bill number 47 of 2017, be now considered. Honorable members, I have 15 requests from the members who want to speak to this Senate amendment. And the first one will go to the member for Suna East, the minority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wish to oppose these amendments. Madam Speaker, this is a classical case of a bill that will go automatically to mediation. Madam Speaker, it looks like the Senate, which believes that their upper house, have not looked into these issues properly. They have contravened the Constitution over and over again, and in this one, in a manner that looks like they have not even consulted their legal experts. Madam Speaker, Schedule 4 is very clear, that divides functions of governments, county government and national government. Madam Speaker, and Article 96 is very clear that the Senate deals with matters concerning counties. It's very clear, it's written in black and white. Now, when you want to take up functions of national government and you're oversighting county government functions, what business are you intending to do? For example, Madam Speaker, they are bringing amendments saying that they are going to have 2 members from the Senate office in the constituency roads development committee. What business does the Senate office have in a constituency development committee? That is, constituencies are in the National Assembly, and Senate sit in the Senate. Senators sit in the Senate. So those 2 people they want to nominate What business do they have to do with the constituency? It just shows you lack of understanding of the constitution. It just shows you people who want to come and get things which don't belong to them. They can form county development, road development committees and get their funding from the county government. The county government can fund them the way the national government funds constituency development, constituency road development fund. Madam Speaker, they go further and say trunk roads belongs to national government, but the road reserve belongs to county government. How do you separate the two? By the time you are, it's like what happened in Migingo, where Uganda said Migingo belongs to the Uganda government, but the water belongs to Kenya, so they can fish. How do you separate a road reserve from the road? By the time you want to do the road and expand it, the reserve is, you don't know even how much, what acreage of land will you get in form of a reserve. You might even make the whole reserve to be part of the road. Madam Speaker, this is an issue, this is a bill, an amendment that this House must reject. And we must have serious people in that mediation team so that the senators can be told that they have crossed the boundaries. Too much. So, Madam Speaker, the issues that have been raised by the chair of the Transport Committee are all valid. Now they are saying when the Minister for Transport is supposed to bring regulations to this House, he must consult the governors and county governments. Madam Speaker, the instrument, it's called what? Act. The Statutory Instruments Act is very clear. It has given the mandate to do regulations only to the Cabinet Secretary. And he is to bring them to this House so that the Committee of Delegated Legislation can look at it and bring it to the House for approval. So where is that? Where are you bringing that mentality, that mind that you must consult when there is law in place on how regulations are supposed to be done? It just tells you, I don't know what the legal department of the Senate is doing. If they can allow senators to discuss these kind of amendments, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, I don't want to belabor the matter. I want to urge this House that we must reject these amendments. They must go to the mediation committee, and we must get them back when they're in conformity with the Constitution and the statute. Madam Speaker, in this House, any bill or any amendment that contravene the Constitution, members stand up and ask for the Speaker to do a ruling like what he did today and what we're expecting him to do on the KA and the JKI. It looks like nobody even concerned whether these things are in conformity, these amendments, and they just passed in the Senate and they just brought here. So, Madam Speaker, we are going to agree as members, we are going to reject them, and then we will go for mediation, then we'll bring them back when they're in conformity. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker.
Very well. The member for Suna East. Honourable members, I have 13 requests from members who want to speak to the Senate amendments to the Kenya Roads Bill, National Assembly Bill number 47 of 2017. The floor goes to the member for Kitui Central, the Honourable Dr. Makari Mulu.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Madam Speaker, I've looked at the proposed amendments. Madam Speaker, I must say, in addition to the more substantive amendments, there are also amendments to do with the editorials, where they are saying replace. For example, Madam Speaker, they are saying in the bill, there's a place they are saying you replace the Kenya Rural Roads Authority with the Kenya National Secondary School Roads Authority, which I think is a new terminology you're adopting. And Madam Speaker, I don't think we have a problem with that, because that is aligning it with the bill. The other thing, Madam Speaker, there's also the area where they are talking about, since we are going to have the new authorities, that is clause 102, where Senate is saying we need to have a transitional arrangement, where, Madam Speaker, before the new authorities come into being, Madam Speaker, they are saying that the existing authorities in terms of Kenya National Highway Authority, Kenya Rural Roads Authority, and the Kenya Urban Roads Authority will have to be in place to make sure that there's actually continuity. Things are moving on. We don't have just a stop of activities without a transitional arrangement. So, Madam Speaker, to me, such amendments which are supposed to either align the bill with the spirit of the bill, I have no problem. But I have serious problems with some of the proposals, Madam Speaker. And I want to join my colleagues in talking about some of these substantial amendments. For example, Madam Speaker, when we talk about consulting the Council of Governors on road matters, when we know very clearly that road matters are national government function, there's a function with the county governments. But Madam Speaker, that consultation, what it will do, it will complicate matters that implementation will never take place. My proposal would be, where they want to be consulted, why can't they participate as part of the participants in a public participation forum? So that they come in that forum, where there's public participation, and they give their input, and we move on. The second issue, Madam Speaker, is the issue of having two officers working in the senator's office joining the board. I think the senators must be joking, Madam Speaker. You know, Madam Speaker, what they are forgetting is the CDF board members are gazetted officers. They have been gazetted, meaning they can take responsibility on behalf of the government. These people we recruit in our offices, constitutional offices or senate offices, are just temporary employees on contract, 2 or 3 years. How do you put them in such a serious board, which is making serious decisions? I think they really need to get their act together, Madam Speaker. So to me, I object to this idea of getting just people who are temporarily to sit in such a serious board. And I think the senator should actually see this, that this is a proposal which cannot sell to anybody, Madam Speaker. The third point, so Madam Speaker, I also am able to give my colleagues a chance also to say something. It's even a proposal, Madam Speaker. This misplaced proposal where they're talking about the same 2 officers who are in the senator's office sitting in a procurement committee, Madam Speaker. These days, if you look at the Procurement Act and the Procurement and Disposal Act, things have changed. It's the CEO who appoints people to sit in that committee. You can't put it in law unless we'll be contracting that other law. So to me, Madam Speaker, some of these proposed amendments don't make sense. And I agree with those who are saying they are unconstitutional. And on those bases, we need to reject all these such kind of amendments and only approve those ones which are editorial in terms of trying to align with the language and things like this. So with those many remarks, Madam Speaker, I support rejection of these amendments.
Very well said, Honorable Dr. Makali Mulu. Remembers the floor goes to, and I want to get the members who are not common speakers in the House. The member for West Mugirango.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this particular opportunity. I also rise to support to oppose the amendments.
To oppose?
To oppose the amendments. Reason being, Madam Speaker, as one of the committee members of Transport Committee, we really sat down and interrogated the amendments as put forward by the Senate itself, Madam Speaker. And most of these amendments, Madam Speaker, I also agree that they are so much unconstitutional, such that, Madam Speaker, you wonder whether the committee really sat down and interrogated the bill before they proposed those particular amendments. Madam Speaker, if you look at clause 102, more particularly where they have proposed that quite a good number of persons to sit in the CRC committee, more particularly where they have proposed that 2 members from the Senate office or from the Senator's office find their way in to the CRC committee. Madam Speaker, that in itself is unconstitutional because we have 2 defined systems of the government. That is the national government and the county government. The CRC we are talking about, Madam Speaker, is a national government function, such that we have 4 members currently who serve in the CRC committee, and these members who serve in the CRC committee, Madam Speaker, they are not just ordinary employees of the Member of Parliament. they are members of CDF, Constituency Development Committee, which in itself is gazetted, Madam Speaker. When the Senate is proposing that the two officers from the Senator's office serve in CRC committee, under which forum are they serving, or are they proposed to sit in the CRC committee? The CRC committee is not a function of the county government. Absolutely not. If the counties want to form their own committees, Madam Speaker, they are at liberty to do it. They have enough funding which goes to roads. Madam Speaker, the counties receive a lot of money from KRP, Kenya Roads Board, in form of a grant. And the members of parliament have never interfered, nor do they have an intention of interfering, nor do they have an intention of being included in those committees if they wish to constitute. And then why should they really want to include or be included in our committees? Madam Speaker, I oppose that. If you look at it, Madam Speaker, further, you will find that they have also proposed County Executive Committee member to do what in the CRC committee. You will look around all through up to point G, and you will find that all these members, Madam Speaker, they have just proposed so that they are able to wither down the influence of the CRC, of the CDF members in the CRC committee. The intention of proposing all these members is meant to wither down the influence of the members, member of parliament in the CRC committee. And finally, Madam Speaker, if the senators were genuine enough in proposing all these amendments, then where is the representative of the women rep? Because she's also a leader. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I also support that during mediation, we need to go to the mediation committee, and in the mediation committee, we need to have very serious members who can be able to take the senators head on. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very well, very well. The member for South Mugirango. The next is the member for Olkalau, the member Honorable Kiarao Juguna. Honorable Kiarao Juguna, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, on the onset, I would like to totally reject these proposed amendments. And Madam Speaker, I happen to serve in the Transport Committee, and I think the amendments which have been proposed, which are before us, to me, this is a big joke. Madam Speaker, if you look at some of the proposed amendments, in my own view, this clearly shows some very serious issues. For one, it's either lack of seriousness. Two, it's either we have what we call vested interest, or people who are trying to seek relevance, and that is whichever committee was dealing with from the Senate part of it. Why do I say this? Madam Speaker, if you look at some of the proposals these people have come up with, you can clearly see it's either meant to serve the interest of some of these members. For instance, a good example, when they say that they want two of their members to be in the CLC, my question is, or the big question I have is, for what purpose? What value is it going to add? And what role are they going to play? This, I do believe, the senators, as we know very well, most of them, they have been trying to seek relevance in their respective counties. And I think one way they feel they get that relevance is by, sticking to some of these committees through now what we are deliberating on. And as far as I'm concerned, this is totally unacceptable. The other issue, Madam Speaker, I would also want maybe to point out, it appears that the senators are serving the interests of most of the governors. As we all know, most governors are having problems in terms of implementation of various projects in their respective counties. And I think we all agree as members of this honorable assembly that one of the very key and very sensitive area in our respective constituencies is when you come to the roadworks. We know already there is quite a bit of money which has been going to the various counties, and most governors, we can all attest that they have failed to actually implement some of these projects. And now what is happening is, if you look at what they are trying to bring through the back door, this to me is a very dangerous thing. And in some areas, some of the proposals they are coming up with, like that they want to be in charge of what you are calling the road reserves. For God's sake, if at all you are to allow that, this will start bringing a lot of conflicts between, if it's some people, an agency like Kenha with the various governors, because you'll find probably if it is a group like an agency like Kenha, they have their own standards, they have their own principles, how they manage the various trunk roads. But you find, for some interest, you find in some county, there is a certain governor probably who want to appease his voters, they want to put some structures within the road reserve. And when someone says that you want to be in charge of the road reserve, and yet we know when you come to the standards, setting of the standards, this is actually something which is prescribed, and the oversight authority is the various agencies which is in charge of that particular road. So I feel some of these things, we should look at them in a very critical way. And some of the proposals which have come up before us, like when they come and say that they want some member from ALSK to be sitting in that particular panel, my question is, for what purpose? So, Madam Speaker, I think this is something we need to look at very critically, and I think as our chair mentioned in his statement, that when we go to the mediation team, we should not allow this bill just to die a natural death, simply because some people have come up with some proposals which are impossible, which are not for the interest of what this bill was intended to in the first onset. So, Madam Speaker, I think as we move forward, I think let's have a very clear mind that we should not allow this bill to die a natural death. And I think, and I do hope that the mediation team will actually be sober enough to make sure we come up with feasible solutions so that we can foster the whole thing ahead as the initial intended purpose. With a few many remarks, thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
On record, you're opposing. Honourable Member. Honourable Kalau, it's good members for you. This is a house of debate.
Yes, I'm on record as opposing.
As opposing.
Thank you.
Very well. This is a house of debate, honourable members. I want to give the floor to the member for Kiminini. And even as I give the floor to him, can I get a member who is proposing? The house of debate, then you can put your card on intervention. The member for Kiminini, Honorable Chris Wamala.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, on the onset, I rise to oppose. I'm opposing
You also
the
opposing.
amendments.
You are opposing the amendments.
Yeah.
Very well.
Madam Speaker, this bill originated from the National Assembly. Then it went to the Senate. Madam Speaker, this bill has stayed in the Senate for more than a year. Now the Senate is bringing back this bill, Madam Speaker, with some outrageous and constitutional amendments. Madam Speaker, for instance, if you talk about the roads board, which is composed of members who do not come from the from the Member of Parliament office, but they come from the CDFC office. Madam Speaker, the two are totally different. And of course, Madam Speaker, we know very well when we speak to such a bill, we only speak to the amendments. And I'm speaking to the amendments. And I want the Senate to know, it is not the MP's office. They come from CDFC office. There's a difference between a CDFC office and the MP's office. Maybe they were not aware. The CDFC members, Madam Speaker, they actually gazetted. And there's a clear framework as per the CDF Act, how they are elected. We have a representation of the disabled, we have the youth, we have the women. There's a clear framework. So you can't compare, you can't come and do a comparative analysis and say the same thing that it should apply to the Senate, that the two people from the Senator's office should sit in that committee. That one is totally wrong. These are officers who've been actually gazetted. And there's no way, Madam Speaker, we are going to allow people who have been handpicked to go and sit in this committee. Madam Speaker, the rivalry that has been happening between the National Assembly and the Senate must come to an end. And that's why we salute, we should have even a referendum, so that one can be an upper house and the functions must be very clear. As many others have suggested, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, Schedule 4 of the Constitution is clear. It has outlined the specific functions of the national government and of the county government. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, we just passed the issues of money to be given to the Senate so that they can use that money for monitoring and evaluation. Let them concentrate on that. And Article 95, 96 is clear what the Senate is supposed to do. It is supposed to follow up on issues to do with the counties. They have nothing to do with these roads, Madam Speaker. And when Leader Majority mentioned about the national highways, that is a responsibility of the national government. And that's why CDF was amended. It is not just CDF, it's called National Government CDF, because it's supposed to look at the functions of the national government as outlined in Schedule 4 of the Constitution. So some of the amendments, Madam Speaker, that the Senate has put across, these amendments, Madam Speaker, they are dead on arrival. And I'm humbly requesting the honorable members who are here, so that we reject them. We don't have to waste time on this. We go to the mediation. And as we go to the mediation, Madam Speaker, I think it's the highest time we need to change our standing orders. Because when you talk of representation, representation must be proportionate. This is a house, we have 349 members of parliament. The other house, the lower house, has 67 members. When it comes to proportional representation, we cannot be equal, Madam Speaker. If it's 5, which will have 3, they have 2. That is the principle of equity. There's no way you can be equal, Madam Speaker. So that as we move forward in the mediation committee, we should be able to resolve this matter once and for all. And we know also very well, Madam Speaker, that within the, I think is it 3 months or 6 months, if the mediation committee will not have resolved, the bill dies. You can imagine going back again, Madam Speaker, public participation, starting this bill afresh. They want to overwork the National Assembly. So this is the highest time we are calling upon our colleagues in the other house. We should respect each other. Let them follow their lane, we also follow our lane. I know we have checks and balances, but at times it is actually been driven, I don't know, by rivalry. I think it's the attitude of rivalry. And we should be able to come here and legislate for the benefit of the public, not benefit of whichever house, Madam Speaker. So I'm humbly requesting my honorable colleagues, we reject this so that we don't waste much time and we go to the mediation. I thank you, Madam Speaker, and I reject the Senate amendments.
Very well, you reject the Senate amendments. Any member who is proposing? Because I can hear the members. The member for Kwanza, you went on intervention. This, let me give you. The member for order. Honorable Kamukete. What is a voter? What is out of order? And please quote your standing order. Because I very well refer to the member for Kwanza. And he was on intervention, but he wants to contribute. Yes, Honorable Kamukete, give him the mic.
Yeah, Madam Speaker, without most respect to the chair, could you just allow the members to contribute without soliciting on who is opposing and who is...
No. Kamukete, Honorable Kamukete, you are totally out of order. Totally out of order. And I can tell you, you are not even anywhere near to speak to this. But I have 9 requests, so you are somewhere near the 9 requests. Honorable members, this is a house of debate, and of course, you catch the speaker's eye, and we are non-partisan from where we sit. So the member for the nominated member, Honorable Ole Sankok David, next on the request list.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, the Speaker have all the right probably to choose from and balance, even regions, balance counties, and balance also gender and even person with disability. Honorable Speaker, thank you for giving me this opportunity to contribute. Since as far as this matter is concerned, I'm very independent. because I don't have the constituency office, I don't have the Senate office, and so on. So I'm very, very independent when I contribute to this particular debate. Honorable Speaker, and from the onset, I totally oppose the backdoor amendments that are not in line with our Constitution. Honorable Speaker, because according to Schedule 4, the Senate is supposed to oversight the county government. There are several functions of the county government in Schedule 4, which they are supposed to oversight. Honorable Speaker, if they have failed in their duty of oversighting the function of the county government, they should tell the Kenyan people so that we introduce a particular amendment in the referendum to send them home and to disband the Senate. Honorable Speaker, because as it stands now, I'm sure why they are trying to get functions is because their functions are also performed by county assembly members. Honorable Speaker, I think it was a mistake of the drafters of our Constitution to even have the Senate in place, because we have now two arms of government oversighting one institution, the county government. Governors don't know if they are answerable to county assembly members or to the Senate. Honorable Speaker, but these amendments were ill-informed, because to have an individual, a private kind of, in quotes, office, personal office, in which we are given officers, because even nominated members, we have our own personal office. And the officers that work in our personal office, like that one of the Senate office, are people you choose, and they are not as competitive as the rest who are competitively recruited, Honorable Speaker. And the CDF office have an office that is competitively recruited members, and they are gazetted. And it's totally different from a personal office of a senator or that personal office of a member of parliament. We should differentiate between functions that are supposed to be public with our personal offices, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, if there is an office that we should include in this particular board, then, or committee, then it should be the office of the women rep. Not the personal office of the women rep, but National Government Affirmative Action Fund offices in the county level. But to say that we introduce the Senate office or Senate officers to be sitting in this committee, it is ill-informed and it is wrong, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I am 100% sure that most of the members will oppose these amendments, and it will go to mediation. It is high time we have a correct representation in that mediation or arbitration process, that we are given slots depending on our ratio, the ratio of the representation in the National Assembly and also in the Senate, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, and it is also good for members of this House to realize that Senate is lacking on their function, their mandate. They no longer know their mandate. They have not read the Constitution properly. And when we go to the referendum, if it actually comes, this House should draft a question on how to disband the Senate so that we remain with the National Assembly oversighting on the national government and the county assembly oversighting on the county government, because somehow one house, which is the lower house, is hanging and it have nowhere that it actually belongs, because we oversight the national government. The county assembly oversight the county government. So where does Senate oversight? And again, I've seen them even summoning cabinet secretaries that are supposed to be in the national government. I don't really know what question they ask them, and what are they oversighting. Because the function of the national government are very specific, and they are oversighted by the National Assembly. We allocate funds. It is us who know how much we have given to our ministry. So when we go and inquire about the use of that fund, we have the information. We have passed the budget. We have allocated funds. But if they come and now ask questions on the use of the funds by the national government, where do they get information? Or is it hearsay? Or because rumors, during tea time we allow them listen to our conversation, and they get some little rumors on who we gave, how much we gave to a specific ministry. So, Honorable Speaker, I totally oppose these amendments.
You totally oppose. The member for Madera North, Honorable Abdullah Sheikh.
Thank you, Honorable Madam
Kwanza,
Speaker.
the member for Kwanza, what is, you're always feeling that you are so special in this house. Allow the speaker to give you the chance to speak. When you catch my eye, definitely, or when your request is already reached, you will do it. You don't just keep on raising or making noises. I've been watching you. Yeah, but you're not very far from, yeah, I notice you.
Thank you, Honorable Madam Speaker. I think I'll be very brief. From the onset, I want to oppose these amendments from the Senate. When I look at these amendments, and it's just a matter of trying to be in competition or rivaling the National Assembly. And looking at all the amendments critically, the Senate is actually overstepping its mandate. What is the core mandate of the Senate? Theirs is to protect devolution, is to oversight the counties. Why are they getting involved in matters which does not fall under their purview? Things which are national in nature. When you look at the composition of the roads board at the consensus level, they say 2 from Senate office, 2 from the Constituency Development Office. Now, the Constituency Development Offices are based and structured in the constituencies. Do we even have Senate offices in the constituencies? No, we don't. There are no offices for senators in the constituencies. So where will they name these persons from? Do they have offices? Do they emphasize to create after passing these bills in their own estimation? So I think, and when they say 2 from Senate, 2 from Constituency Development Funds, what is the rationale? So the whole idea boils down to trying to be in competition with members of parliament in the respective constituencies. The amendments actually amounts or tend to serve the ego of the senators, trying to find relevance in the affairs of national matters. That they look like they are in the upper house, they are not in the upper house, then they see the National Assembly as a lower house. So the whole idea is trying to do whatever the National Assembly is trying to do so that they can also do the same. But they are unable to do their functions properly. Most of the senators during elections behave as if they are running mates to governors. So when a governor of their choice comes into power, then it's like, I'm not going to oversight him, I'm not going to look into affairs of the county because we are buddies during elections. And that's why we have the problem. They are unable to purely do oversight of what is happening in the counties because they assume they have been running mates to the governors themselves. And when I look at the issue of trying to summon the cabinet secretaries, the only 2 cabinet secretaries that they need to summon at any one time, in my estimation, is the cabinet secretary for devolution, because he will deal with matters of the counties, and the cabinet secretary for treasury because of issues of release of funds. Sometimes they summon the minister for education, the minister for national security, even defense. What role do they play? So I see these amendments to be rather unconstitutional, not grounded in law. All they want is to be relevant so that they can be seen that they are busy. So I just want to be very clear that the running of the affairs of the Kenya Rural Roads Authority as it is at the constitutional level is going on very well without any hitch or complaints from the various stakeholders. How did this issue reach the Senate? Was there a complaint that they want to structure this? Were there shortcomings? I don't believe so. So the whole idea is just to say we want to be relevant, we have no much work to do in the counties, and that we should meddle with the work and affairs of the members of parliament in the constituencies. And it all boils down to the issue of saying we want to be above the National Assembly. So I just want to be very brief. I oppose these amendments and ask the Senate to really keep its mandate of trying to safeguard and protect devolution and let them critically oversight the county governments without saying we have been buddies during elections or so and so. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very well. The member for Mandera on record opposing. The member for Sirisia, the Honorable Koyi Waluke, not in the House. And I now move to the member for Kwanza, the Honorable Wanyonyi. I remember you addressed on intervention and you indicated otherwise.
Madam
Yes,
Speaker, I just want to say my character is that I'm very patient and very, very loyal to this House. And so, I am not impatient as such.
Thank you.
Please, that's my character.
I know you have done, and you are serving, you have
Honorable
done
Richard
very well.
Donje knows that. He knows I'm very patient and very focused.
Very
I want
well.
to do...
very well, Honorable Member.
Thank you so
we
much.
note that you are patient, but sometimes
thank you
it's
very
good.
much,
We follow the procedures of the House. And now the Speaker caught your eye. Very well. Just carry on now.
Thank
The
you,
member
Madam Speaker,
represent the people of
for the
Kwanza.
opportunity. And on very onset, Madam Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to reject this amendment. For me, it looks like it's a joke. It doesn't have any seriousness it deserved. I think somebody somewhere actually was seeking relevance. And maybe with some vested interest in the whole thing. Because, Madam Speaker, I remember debating this bill sometimes in 2018, and it has taken such a long time, and it comes back, and I thought maybe it will have some serious implication, what have you, but what I'm seeing here is lack of seriousness it deserved. One, Madam Speaker, the Senate, for all I respect them for, they are colleagues in these houses, in both houses, they are colleagues. We should not talk to them or at them. Let's work with them. I do not want the tone in which our colleagues are putting it. And these are colleagues. We want to speak to them with all respect they deserve. But there's so much out there. If you go to the constituency, there's so much out there, Madam Speaker, that I would expect that our colleagues in Senate can do the oversight that they're supposed to do. One, look at the devolved functions. Apart from the road network in the constituencies, which is supposed to oversight. Look at what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to call the governors. I don't know the sphere of calling the governors before them. I have no idea. And these days, I don't see them calling the governors. And I'm here. I've never seen them summon the governors. We've seen governors being investigated, and they're supposed to be oversighting them. They are not doing that. So this is a very simple little thing. They have the oversight of what the MCS are supposed to be doing out there, the road network, in the constituency. That's what they're supposed to do. But as it is today, the oversight role of our colleagues in Senate is very, very clear cut out for them. But for this amendment they are bringing them, like now having two members coming, LSK coming in, I mean, what are they going to? Is there a vested interest or out of jealousy? The one they think that maybe members of parliament are making money, it's not true. We do the oversight, and they should do the same thing in terms of the county government running. Because today, we have so many things happening out of the county that I think the work they're supposed to do is to do the oversight of the county. The other thing is that, Madam Speaker, members of the CDF are the members of the Roads Board. And it's very clear. We work with the carer. They're supposed to be working with the other network. What are they going to do? What interest do they have in this one? So as far as I'm concerned, and without even wasting so much time on this, Madam Speaker, let's go for mediation right away. And as somebody mentioned, and 3 or 4 members of this House have mentioned, the mediation team should be appropriate with the number that actually will represent. They have for 46, 7, and I think that's 67, including the nominated MCAs, senators, sorry. We then should have a ratio of 1 to 3. And then go for mediation to be able to have this thing, because the people out there are not interested in what we are talking about here. People out there are interested in seeing us doing the service that they set us to do. And therefore, Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, I want to ask our colleagues, please let them be serious, let them not have vested interest, and agree with whatever we are going to come up with the mediation team. And I think this House will be able to carry 3 to 2, 1 to 3, so that to be able to complete this. Failure to which, of course, the bill will then will expire, and other people will ask us what we should have done. So with those few remarks, I totally reject this, the amendment from the Senate. Thank you.
Very well, the member for Kwanza, Honorable Wanyonyi Kevin. Next on my request list is the member for Samburu North, Honorable Lentoi Manga Musa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Madam Speaker, I just want to echo the voice of my colleagues who have already opposed these amendments, and I want to say that I totally oppose, because it's not in good faith, according to me, going by what we know the role of the Senate. Senate, if I may quote Article 96, represents counties and serves to protect the interests of the counties. And there's a lot to be done in the counties, a lot of it. Last time after the promulgation of the Constitution, and actually when we started implementing the Constitution right from 2013, the government devolved most of those roles that were meant in the Constitution. And in fact, even counties went ahead and demanded that some of the other roles be devolved faster than they were supposed to be done, to be devolved. So actually their hands are full. The Senate has a lot of work to do. After all, if you look at the road network in the county, the national government is only actually the road committee in the constituency only handles very few the road network. In my constituency, we only in one financial year we can only manage 4 roads, only 4, out of the many that are there in the county. So counties have a lot of roads. For the road class C, class D, class E, and down there, they have a lot of it, including the lanes and even access roads. So they have a lot to do if they want to do the work, the oversight. Secondly, Madam Speaker, Article 95 says that National Assembly represents the people of the constituencies and special interest in the National Assembly. Constituency road, these roads, especially they want to change, specifically on including they wanting to include 2 persons from, or 2 officers from the Senator's office in the road committee. But the road committee, which is managed by Kera, is called Constituency Road Committee. It's not County Road Committee. It is a Constituency Road Committee. It's not County Road Committees. So the request or the amendment is misplaced. It's unconstitutional, as well as outrageous. After all, Madam Speaker, what the constituency road committee manages is very little money. I don't know, maybe it's different from where I sit or where I come from. In my constituency, what the Kera Road Committee, the constituency road committee manages, which comprises the committee that comprises the constituency CDF committee members, is peanuts. It's hardly 20 million shillings. Why look for 20 million shillings and the county has more than 1 billion shillings that's meant for the road? Why not go for that one? For those and after all, again, Kera does a lot of work. In fact, they are so efficient. They are managed well because from the beginning, from the time before they advertise the roads, which they do it independently without any interference from the member of parliament, they bring auditors to verify the road first, to look at the roads, to determine whether they are really necessary to be graded or to be marramed. They come there early, the auditors from the national government. After the road is awarded, contract is awarded for that particular road or those 4 roads, again they come back after it's finished. And they make sure that money was utilized efficiently and there is value for that money. For the counties where I come from, nobody knows what goes on after awarding contracts. And in fact, in the first place, they even don't care about the conflict of interest. Most of the time, it is the officials of the county government who are doing whose companies are awarded the contracts. So there is a lot to be oversighted. If if the senators were really serious, they should have gone out there and made sure that the award of contracts is done efficiently and according to the Procurement Law and Public Finance Act, instead of coming to look for this to include themselves in the management, or rather the management of the road committees that are done by Kera. Again, the issue, the national trunk highway roads, the highways, is done by national government. So again, those are they are not party to the county government. So in my humble view, Madam Speaker, these are just vested interests. People, senators want to have relevance. Senators want to maybe to get something out of these small roads. They want to get some money maybe. They want to be involved in contracts. Because again, at the same time, the constituencies are so many compared to the counties. At what time how can they manage maybe in a county that has more than 6 or 7 constituencies? Where can they get the officers to be in those committees in the 7, 8, for example, Nairobi has 17 constituencies. They will be overwhelmed. Besides the work of the county. So in my view, these particular amendments are wrong. They are not supposed to be there. Senators are very busy people. If they want to make themselves busy, there is a lot of work to be done. But I think it's just a matter of competition. They want to. In fact, if you allow this thing to go on, then it means the next time they will say, let us again bring some people, some officials to be members of the Constituency Development Fund. That's the next argument, the next amendments they want to bring. And like just what my colleagues have said, the committee of the road committee is not comprised of officials from the parliamentary members of parliament's office. They are not. These are officers. These are officials who are selected through public participation in every constituency and location. The members of the public sit down and they agree to nominate one person, and specifically on gender, on disability, and youth, and like along those lines. So So senators, by bringing this amendment, they want to bring somebody they have employed, somebody who sits like a PA in their offices, and that's not acceptable. They should just continue oversighting county government, and if they want to have those officers of theirs, officials of theirs, to work in any office, let them approach the governor. Let them go to the governors, their respective governors, and let them get those fellows, those officials from their offices to be employed there. Or let them also go through the assembly, the county assembly, so that they can be able to get slots in whatever, to make their people busy if they are not busy. With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I want to oppose, and I want to say that we need to go we'll go to the mediation and make sure that these amendments are shot down and rejected outrightly. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very well, the member for Samburu North. The floor goes to the member for Nafalokolo. Honorable Angwe Emmanuel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Speaker, on the onset, allow me to join my colleagues in rejecting the proposed amendments to the floor. I vehemently oppose these proposed amendments by the Senate. Honorable Speaker, by the following few reasons that I want to lay bare. Honorable Speaker, I served in the 11th Parliament as a member in the Transport Committee, who are part of the committee that initiated this process. And as we were going through, I remember very well what we really deliberated on, and this is not part of what we really went through it. Madam Speaker, this is unconstitutional. Article 96 gives us the limitations to what the Senate is supposed to do. And it also goes further and explains what it entails in Articles 107 through to 113 that is supposed to detail in their deliberations. Honorable Speaker, when you look at what they are proposing before us, it doesn't lie bare in that range. And therefore, just by virtue of it being unconstitutional, Madam Speaker, it must be rejected, it must be rejected absolutely, and it should be done away with. In fact, Madam Speaker, as we contribute, we should be counting the time so that we vote it out and go for mediation and close this chapter. Madam Speaker, what is also surprising me is they are making proposals that the accountant in charge of the various constituencies becomes the AI holder. Madam Speaker, and yet we know very well the structure that operates down in the constituencies with respect to the regional management of the Kenya Rural Roads Authority, which will be named otherwise, Honorable Speaker. That will really bring a fight in terms of administration. It will bring a confusion between the regional manager and the staff, Madam Speaker. We don't want to cause confusion through such a kind of implementation of a very good and noble bill that is before the House. Honorable Speaker, the Senate has gone ahead to make a proposal that they would want to nominate 2 people from their offices. My question is, Honorable Speaker, I want to cite an example of my own county, where I come from. We are 12 sub-counties, and I'm pretty sure that my senator does not have 24 staff to engage. Why are we debating on an issue which we just know that is not practical from my example side of it? It means he is going to lend a leave from somewhere else so that he is able to accommodate staff. Who are these people that he's going to bring on board? Yet they'll not be members of his office. He doesn't have such a capacity, Honorable Speaker, to employ such a people. So it means from the word go, this is a document that is going to not be practical in terms of implementation, Honorable Speaker. And on that note, Honorable Speaker, it should now die on arrival so that we just have a proper document which is proper to implement, which we can rely on and move on, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, when you look at the document, the way they want to detail it before us, it's also not proper, Honorable Speaker, with respect to the way they want to cite the examples in terms of the operationalization of the 2 officers who are going to be nominated by the senator. How are they, this is not the senator, this is a representative of the senator, Honorable Speaker. We do not want to delegate noble roles of our staff through in action in terms of the offices of the senator, Honorable Speaker. That delegation is bound to be abused. that delegation is bound to control what is not really theirs. On that note, Honorable Speaker, it's important that I urge my colleagues to simply reject this bill as it is. Let's go for mediation. And in mediation, Honorable Speaker, I would really want to urge the chair of the committee to put his foot down. This is a wrong proposal, which us as legislators, which us as leaders should not accept. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I oppose.
You oppose. Very well. The member for Sotik, Honorable Kosike, keep quiet. Next on my request list. Give me the mic.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. First of all, I want to echo my members, joining them in opposing the amendments from the Senate. Madam Speaker, I sit in Transport Committee. I'm an engineer by profession, so I tend to really think that the bill brought forth by the Senate was not done in good faith. Madam Speaker, when you look at the amendments to the bill, when the Senate sat down, took their time, thought of introducing members from the office of the senator to join the CRC, really, when you look at that, it was in really bad faith. I don't know whether the Senate's thinking in this matter is to, at the end of the day, kill the bill. Because when you look at it, Madam Speaker, these amendments really goes beyond the functions of the Senate. The Senate's purpose was specifically to protect the counties. What role do they have in proposing some members from the office of the senator to come into CRC? You know, we really think this was done in bad faith. Madam Speaker, when you also look at the other proposals to the amendments of the bill, you know, look at the issues of taking care of other factors in the bill. The Senate really did not do well. And when you look at the bill, Madam Speaker, I tend to think that it has a lot of gains which were supposed to be considered. But the actual intention, I don't know, from the Senate, is to go back and make sure the status quo remains. Because if we can't agree to most of these amendments, Madam Speaker, so I tend to think that there is another force, I don't know from where I sit, Madam Speaker, to intentionally kill the bill. I don't know, and I hope that the mediation team will look at it critically. Let's be hopeful, because there are several gains in the bill. If you look at the bill itself, there is something called Standardization Board. Madam Speaker, if you look at how the counties use their money for roads, most of it is PR. It is PR exercises they are doing, Madam Speaker. I single out, I don't know whether it's right to single out Machakos County, for example. They are saying they can be able to do an asphalt road in 3 months. Which standards are they following? Where I sit as an engineer in the profession, it is really worrying. These are studies done over a long period of time. No use of new technologies in place, using the old technologies to try and do roads in 3 months. These are waste of public money. The introduction of a standardization board, which cuts across all the national government and county government roads, will ensure that standards are adhered to. So it ensures that public money is used rightfully. When now the bill is brought forth like this, and the intention is probably to kill this bill so that we don't have standardization boards in place, it defeats senses. A lot of time has been put. This bill has been there for a while now, and it seems that the intention is really not to have the bill in place. The bill has also looked at several other aspects. Introduction of several other members of, when you look at the bill, there is introduction of members of, the board. When you look at the board of KERA, board of KURA, the board of the other authorities running roads in this country. There is an introduction of other members, which are very good to this country. But now, when you look at the intention of the Senate, now that we are going to mediation, it is really not to have this bill in place. I really urge members of the Senate to reconsider their stand as we go forward to mediation and look at the country at large. With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I join my fellows here in rejecting the proposals. Thank you very much.
You are on record opposing or rejecting the amendment.
I'm in record opposing the amendments, Madam Speaker.
We are debating on motion number 10 again, Senate amendments to the Kenya Roads Bills, National Assembly Bill number 47 of 2017. The member, Honorable Tonki Nyangaka, member for Nyaribari Church.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to speak into this motion. However, I was waiting for the next one, but I just want to agree with my colleagues, Madam Speaker, who have spoken ahead of me about the Senate and their functions. Madam Speaker.
Order. I must respond to this member. The Honorable Mulyungi, we don't throw hands in the House. And again, I can see what you're trying to indicate with the Speaker. The Speaker is so clear in the mind that you don't need to come from which side in this National Assembly. You can sit anywhere. It does not matter whether you sit on the left or right. We go by the requests. Of course, I understand you from where you are, though you're not very far. Honorable member for Mwingi Central. In fact, you are the next one. You can start getting ready.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for ensuring there's order in the House, and that's why we appreciate your services. Madam Speaker, we all, as in principle, we don't oppose the idea of being oversighted and getting many people to look into what is good for the country. But as we do that, Madam Speaker, we need to be careful not to cause confusion, because like they say, everybody's business becomes nobody's business. And if we allow too many people into the chair, Madam Speaker, we are only going to cause confusion, and this confusion is not good for the country, and it's not what we desire to have. Madam Speaker, the roads is a function which is both county and national function. But we also agree that there are roads which are done by the county and there are those which are done by the national government. It perturbs me, Madam Speaker, when I hear the Senate recommending that the reserve roads should be surrendered to the county. And my next question would be, what happens then when the government want to expand? What happens when the government want to expand the roads? Would they have to seek clearance from the county before that happens? Those are the kind of confusion that we want to mitigate, Madam Speaker, by ensuring that these kind of things are not allowed. Madam Speaker, I agree that what has been said by my colleagues makes a lot of sense. When the Senate say they want to recommend their people to the board, they only have very few staff serving in the county. And in my county, Kisii, we have 9 constituencies. Where are they going to get the personnel who will sit in every one of those meetings? What happens when we have a meeting all at the same time? And this is a serious function. We don't want to take chances. We don't want to cause any confusion onto it. And we want to have systems working and working very clearly. Like I said from the beginning, Madam Speaker, without repeating what my colleagues have said, Madam Speaker, I support.
Very well, very well. Now, the member for Mwingi Central.
Oh, sorry.
The Honorable Mulyungi Mutemi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to oppose this bill. Madam Speaker, I want to join my colleagues in acknowledging that we must maintain a distinction between members of the National Assembly and the Senate. Article 96 of the Constitution is very clear, and we should adhere to the rule of law. Senate must oversight counties. It appears like senators have actually failed in their duties because since we came to this parliament, I've never seen one governor being summoned by the Senate to come and answer audit queries. And there's a lot of theft in the counties. And therefore now senators want to rein on the mandate of the members of parliament. Because we know very well that members of parliament are involved in Kera roads. And therefore the senators now want to sneak in these amendments so that they find space in the management of roads which are under members of parliament. The current, the bill which is on the floor of the House is very clear on the distinction of which roads are managed by the county government and which roads are managed by the national government. And under the national government is where the members of parliament fall. And the roads which are managed by members of parliament, there are not many. Like in my constituency, I only have 3 roads, and there are more than 100 roads, feeder roads, in the county, which are managed by the county assembly. This bill and the amendments made by the Senate, if you read between the lines, what these amendments are trying to do is to make the county government a godfather, to make the county government a superpower in the management of roads. And therefore, we cannot support this kind of an amendment because then will not be fully involved in the management of roads. Madam Speaker, roads are the backbone of infrastructure and economic growth, and therefore it is not something we should play around with. And what the senators are trying to do is an abuse of legislative powers, which they are trying to do. Lucky enough, the amendments must come to this House. Were it not done that way, then they would have gotten away with those amendments and included themselves in the running of the affairs of roads. Madam Speaker, what in the current Roads Act, our CNDF members are the ones who sit in the roads committees. And what the senators are trying to do, they want to now to bring their members to the committee so that they can manage the roads themselves. And they also want to bring the governor. Some of us don't work very closely with the governors. Yeah? So governors, because we also want to be governors. So I want to be the next governor of Kitui County. So bringing governor to reign on my roads, then it means I will not do anything. And therefore, we must separate. We must separate the powers of governors and the powers of members of parliament, because the member from Garissa here, who is my neighbor, he wants me to be the governor of Kitui County. So now when a governor of Kitui County becomes a member of roads, I will not do any road.
What is out of order, Leader of Majority? I thought Honorable Mulyungi is one of being very honest.
No, he's not honest. I really want him, Madam Speaker, you ask him to withdraw and apologize. Because the Honorable Charity Ngilu is an old colleague of mine in the 10th Parliament. And he has not up to now measured to our standards. He has not measured. So when the time comes he will measure, I will decide. And I'm not a voter in Kitui, but I have got some influence. But as of today, Charity Ngilu is ahead of him. So can he withdraw? I have not endorsed him.
But Honorable Leader of Majority, He could just be asking for your vote in anticipation, so your position might change. So I think let's have him.
No,
let's have him-
Madam Speaker, what he's trying to do, he's trying to carry a fake opinion poll. And I, and I don't want to be part of his fake opinion poll.
Okay,
And this man, he's short, but he's dangerous.
Honorable Mulyungi, continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Continue with the debate.
What the majority leader doesn't know is that he has no capacity to decide who becomes the next governor of Kitui County. He even never decided whether I should come to this house.
Let's
So
get
he
back to
should-
the relevance of the debate.
Madam Speaker, I was saying that county government wants to be godfathers. The Senate wants to bring the county government into the roads. And therefore, we should vehemently oppose these amendments by the Senate so that we continue managing Kera roads the way we have been managing. And I think we have been doing it very well. I don't see any problem. But this will bring a lot of conflict of interest. There is also an amendment where LSK is being brought on board. LSK has no business with infrastructure. LSK is, they make laws, and therefore, I sit in the committee of transport, and we looked at this, and we decided that we should expunge the Law Society of Kenya from the board. There is also an amendment which says that when you are doing roads and you want to access water, you must consult the governor. I don't think that is completely acceptable because Kera roads are under the national government, and the constitution is very clear. If you have to consult the governor, and you are not in terms with the governor, then it means you never do any roads because they will not allow you to access water. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I strongly oppose these amendments and recommend that we mediate with the Senate, and if the mediation fails, then the bill should die, and we continue the way we have been continuing with the roads. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I oppose. Thank you.
Member for Kipipiri.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to recognize a lot of effort put here by the Senate, but unfortunately seem to be like running on a treadmill. Putting lots of effort, but actually with no movement. And I join my colleagues in actually finding that most of these amendments are actually superfluous, unnecessary, and should be rejected in total. And I want to just look at some of the things. When they start talking of, in their clause 7, that they want to introduce the Council of Governors. Already we had provided for the Intergovernment Relations Technical Committee within a bill. But now they want to start bringing themselves a Council of Governors. And the last time I checked, I don't believe that the Council of Governors was formed with a mandate to start sitting in boards, to start providing advice on standards of roads, which is what they're attempting to do in clause 9, that the cabinet secretary, when they're deciding on the standards of roads, should consult the Council of Governors. Now, when do Council of Governors become engineers in roads to determine our standards for roads? Now, Madam Speaker, when you also look at all these other amendments they are bringing in clause 17, in clause 20, bringing the Law Society of Kenya, you wonder why Law Society of Kenya, what are the legal issues to do with roads, with respect to lawyers, but surely if even they have not even thought about the numbers, because it says 2 people nominated by following 2 institutions, but they then say add another institution. Now you got 2 people to be nominated by 3 institutions. How do you even start figuring out which of the 2 you take and which ones do you leave out?
And soon, then we will also be asking for accountants to join, the architects to join, and all these different people. Madam Speaker, when you look at the same issue, and I think I don't want to get back to it, it's been alluded to, that when clause 44, basically when you now want to get the way leaves and sort out what happens, that you need to go and consult the relevant county government. That already happens anyway as a matter of planning and the approvals. But when you start putting it within the law, we are getting ourselves, shooting ourselves in the foot. Madam Speaker, there are several issues, but you need to look at this within the framework of the context in which Senate may be making these things. And the way I look at it is we have an idle house that is looking for relevance. We got the Senate, when it was set up, it was very clear in 2010 to represent the interest of counties. Senators do not represent people. They represent counties. Members of the National Assembly represent the people and the issues to do with the people. Now, obviously, when we all see when senators come to the constituency, they want to show, I am the one who has done this road. I went to the Senate, we went to the president, we went to where we was given a road, but they have no way of showing because the CRC is controlled by the Member of Parliament. So what they are trying to do is now to sneak in a way of knowing what you're doing so that when you are out there, they can be going and getting some false mileage that they are the ones who are actually doing the roads and not the Members of Parliament. Madam Speaker, it's also very clear that we know that some of the senators want to become governors. Much as the member for Mwingi Central has declared, a number of these senators are looking for a situation where they are now trying to create for themselves their future involvement within this meddling of the roads as governors. And I will not be long, members, so I just want to make sure that it's put on record that I'm one of the people who is very dissatisfied with the workings of the Senate, the meddling they are doing with the work of the national government, and at an appropriate time, I think we need to revisit whether we actually need this Senate or not, and if we need it, what role should we give it so that we actually don't end up duplicating work and making Kenyans suffer double jeopardy appearing between committees of the National Assembly and the Senate for the same issue. Madam Speaker, I believe it's very clear that we should just reject these things and force the next step, and hence I don't even need to go through all the other clauses that are an issue. And with those remarks, I beg to oppose.
Member for Mogotio.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think understanding Order 95, I'd like to call on the mover to reply, since most of us agree that this motion needs to be brought to an end. Thank you.
Okay, order, members. Order.
Yes.
Order. Order, members. I will proceed to put the question on the motion raised by member for Mogotio on calling the mover to reply. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of our contrary opinion say nay? No. The ayes have it. Leader of majority.
Madam Speaker, I beg to reply.
Order. Honorable members, I go on to put the question. Which is that the Senate amendments to the Kenya Roads Bill, National Assembly Bill number 47 of 2017, be now considered. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of our contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The nays have it. Next order. Order members, you will realize that order number 11, we were supposed to go into committee of the whole house on two bills. The first one has not been debated, like you all know, and therefore it is stepped down. The second one has been defeated, so we move on to order number 12.
Order number 12, motion. Report on alleged irregular specialist recognition of Dr. Samira Soni by the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Board. Mover to reply.
Chair, Health. Yes, Honorable Leader of Majority. Do you have a brief?
Yeah, I have a brief. Honorable Chair is in Muranga on a national issue. Madam Speaker, I think the House has debated this matter. I really want to thank all the members who contributed immensely into the matter looking into the Health Committee report. Madam Chair, before we move, I thought we were going to go to the Committee of the Whole House on the Senate amendments. Yeah, Roman 2 of order number 11.
But we just defeated that Honorable Leader of Majority. You are the only one who supported it. Everybody else was against it.
So anyway, we'll go to a mediation. Sorry,
Yes.
I got confused up.
You're right, Honorable Leader of Majority is actually committed to mediation.
Yes.
It stands committed for
So
mediation.
from here we go to mediation, and I'll inform. So Honorable Chair for Transport, you have no business now. I'll find you in the mediation. So as I reply on behalf of the Health Committee Chair, Honorable Sabina Chege, this was a matter which was conversed for, I think, 2 sitting days on Dr. Samira's issue on the alleged irregular specialist. And I'm sure the recommendation given by this committee will go a long way in helping the medical board, dentist practitioners and dentist board on the way forward. And Madam Speaker, I am sure the board will take into consideration the concerns of this House, where we have a sitting member of this House who lost one of his sight because of the hospital run by Dr. Soni, where we are told a governor in this country lost his 2 eyesights because of the hospital that is run by Dr. Samira Soni. So Samira Soni is not only about herself, it's even the proprietor of that hospital. So I think we must protect Kenyans' lives and their safety. So the medical board, the Ministry of Health, all other regulating institutions must take up this matter, must get this report. The Committee of Implementation must write to the ministry, must write to the board, and the clerk must write after adoption of this report that it will not be business as usual for Dr. Samira and her medical facility in Westlands, so that each and every professional in our country must adhere to accountability, must adhere to ethics of the profession that they practice, and that the patients that undergo through their hospitals and through their clinics must be accorded the highest health safety standards. I beg to reply.
Honorable members, I shall defer the putting of the question on this one until such other time when it comes up on the order paper. Next order.
Order number 16, motion. Order number 13, motion. Inquiry into the Kenya-Somalia borders securitization project. Resumption of debate interrupted on Wednesday, March 13, 2019, afternoon sitting.
Honorable members, we are resuming debate on this motion, and Honorable Tongi was on the floor prosecuting an amendment. So, Honorable Tongi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to continue from where I stopped yesterday, Madam Speaker, that we are moving an amendment as follows: by deleting the word adopts, appearing immediately after the expression that this House, and substituting therefore with the word notes, and by deleting the word inquiry into after the words foreign relations on the and substituting therefore with the word status. I further, Madam Speaker, move to amend the title of the report on the inquiry into the status, viability, efficacy in the implementation of the Kenya-Somali border securitization project, and substituting therefore with the new title report on the status of Kenya.
Honorable Tongi, which amendment are you talking about?
I'm talking, Madam Speaker, on the amendment on motion 13. There are three. The one on the order paper, and there is another one, further amendment on the same, which is basically stating the same thing, but because you cannot change that without changing the title to read the same message, Madam Speaker.
So, you're saying the substance of the amendment affects the title?
Yes, the wordings, not the content remains the same, but the wordings have to change, Madam Speaker.
So you want to do it hand in hand with
Yes.
the other one? I think it's in order.
So the new title, Madam Speaker.
Go on.
Pardon?
Go on, Honorable Tongi.
Madam Speaker, so the new title will read, Report on the Status of the Kenya-Somali Border Securitization Project. I ask my colleague Charles Kironso to second.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wish to second those two amendments as they appear in the proposed motions. And as I do so, Madam Speaker, I want to say the mandate of this committee, because this matter came up yesterday, this committee does not need only to respond to petitions or questions from members. It can act on its own. And on that line, Madam Speaker, we all know that government has been doing this project of the fence, the wall, between the Kenyan and the Somalian border, and we felt that it is necessary. And I want to quote, because the leader of the majority did raise the issue and said no question was put forward, but the departmental committees under the new standing orders, standing order number 216, 5H is very clear. Departmental committees, and I wish to quote, can make reports and recommendations to the House as often as possible, including recommendations of proposed legislation. So, Madam Speaker, members of the committee felt that such a magnitude project going on cannot go on without the committee playing its role of oversight. And on that basis, Madam Speaker, the committee did engage the various ministries concerned. And one of the key issues, Madam Speaker, which the committee was concerned, is wars worldwide. Worldwide, wars are not good things. So we needed to know what is the justification. Why is it that we must have a wall on the Kenyan-Somalian side and not on Ethiopia, Kenyan, Sudan, Kenya, Uganda, and other countries? But Madam Speaker, when we met the various ministries, it was made very clear to us, it's not that they won the war, but it was felt that for purposes of security and to be able to deal with the issues of terrorism, over and above other issues, we need to have a barrier between the two countries. The committee met, had meetings with the CS Defense, We also had meetings with the Ministry of Public Service, Ministry of Youth, on the same. Later on, the committee did visit and had meetings with the public in Mandera, and at no time did the committee get any objection, whether from members of parliament from that region or from the public. But Madam Chair, Madam Speaker, members were also very concerned that it would be very expensive to do a wall or a fence all the way from the border. But we are told that it is still in design level. This time, some areas they intend to use security, they intend to use technology rather than doing the physical barriers. That said, after the visit, those members who visited the particular area, because I saw today the media was giving a wrong impression of what is happening. I want to be very clear, and for the benefit of members, we need to know actually what is being done on the ground. It's not just the wall and the fence. If you look at your report, page 30, it is very clear there's a lot of activities. And I'll be very particular, if members can go there, the infrastructure being implemented includes, there's going to be the international borderline survey, which means surveyors have been engaged to demarcate and show exactly where the border between the two countries falls. There's going to be the construction of the fence. Fence can be a wall, can be chain link, or otherwise. There's going to be also construction of all-weather patrol roads. There's going to be also construction of anti-vehicular trench excavation. There's going to be rehabilitation of airstrip and local access roads. And also there are projects to benefit the community. There's going to be undertaking of socio-economic activities that enhance the living standards of the local community. Madam Chair, if you go to page 33, because the figures involved are alarming, but for our purpose. There's going to be construction of Border Command headquarters in Wajir, and works are ongoing. There's going to be construction of another command headquarters and forward operating base in Wajir. There's going to be construction of operational cells in Mandera, rehabilitation of Liboy and Hulgo airstrips, fabrication of fencing materials are ongoing, sinking of boats, and so on. So it's many activities which are involved. The committee felt a project of this nature is only fair that this House is put on the know, which is one of the mandate of these committees. But Madam Chair, on the visit to Mandera, one issue came up which has been put in our committee. One observation we made. We noted among all observations, and if you look on our report, page 37, on one of our observations is that there's need for the government to open the Kenya-Somalia border. This will lead to an improvement in revenue collection when movement of persons and goods is regulated. Our committee on that basis, among the recommendation number 2, we did recommend that the border should be reopened. The custom offices should be reopened. Madam Chair, Madam Speaker, with those remarks, I wish to second those amendments.
Honorable members, I will go on to propose a question, which is that the motion be amended as follows. 1, by deleting the word, quote unquote, adopts, appearing immediately after the expression, quote unquote, that this House, and substituting thereof, therefore, with the word, quote unquote, notes. And 2, by deleting the words, quote unquote, inquiry into, after the words, quote unquote, foreign relations on the, and substituting therefore with the words, quote unquote, status of. And number 3, the title of the report, which reads, report on the inquiry into the status, viability, and efficacy in the implementation of the Kenya-Somalia border securitization project and substituting, therefore, with a new title, quote unquote, Report on the Status of the Kenya-Somalia Border Securitization Project. I have a total of 5 requests. Let's start with the member for Mosop. Honorable Tuei Kipkurui. You seem surprised, Honorable Tuei.
Thank you. As a member of the committee, Madam Speaker, I have not much to say, but to say that the report, the way it has been amended, I do support, and also to make my contribution that the securitization...
Honorable Tuei and all other honorable members, for this time you have to confine yourself to the amendment.
Correct.
And then that does not deny you the opportunity afterwards to contribute to the motion as amended.
Thank you.
So for now, confine yourself to the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I do support the amendments as presented by the Vice Chair, Honorable Tongi.
That's in order. Honorable Kevin Wanyonyi.
Madam Speaker, I think the amendment, I'm not a member of the committee. And I'm sitting here, I've got to agree with the amendment, and I support the amendment. And I also want to contribute to the main, I agree with the amendment, and I want to contribute to the main report. If that's allowed, can I make my move?
Not now. You only support the amendment and then hold your horses until we have the amended version. Then you will contribute.
With the question.
I have other members who may want to speak to the amendment. Abdullah Sheikh? Honorable, is that Lento Imanga? Yes, Honorable Lento Imanga.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to support the amendment. Madam Speaker, and I want to support it because I know Mandera, I know Wajir, I know Garissa, I know I know the entire northeastern region. I know the kind of challenges are there in terms of security, livelihood, and also in terms of incursions from Somalia. Madam Speaker, I happened to work there during the fall of Siad Barre, and I know how people came with very heavy machinery when they are running away from the war in Somalia. And I want to support this amendment because it's a critical undertaking by the government to ensure that we secure our borders, secure them very, very strongly. And I think this should have been done long time ago, not just now. We are actually very late. In the last government, I happened to be in the Committee of Security, and this is like the initiative of our late Minister, General Ngaiseri, and I think that's the time it was started. But when I saw yesterday in the newspaper, because I think media has become so focal and very elaborate in sometimes misleading Kenyans, I'm not saying that I know a lot of what the expenditure, but what I know, it is we can use as much resources as possible to secure that part of Kenya, because in the event that there is any kind of invasion in this country, definitely almost 90% will come through the border between us and Somalia. Why? Because it's a porous border. It's a long border, almost over 800 kilometers in length. And there is a lot of attraction to Kenya by people who are who have no good intention. First of all, they want to come here because of the war across. First of all, they want to come to Kenya because they want to be part of Kenya. They want to be registered as Kenyans, and also because they want to relocate to other parts of the world. But the exit point is Kenya, and also because of the business. All kind of contraband goods can come through this particular border. So, in my view, I want to say that I want to support this amendment, but I want to request the committee to be on the watch-out to ensure that resources are used properly, and to ensure that they are utilized for the purpose which were intended, and to secure the country from incursion from outside. Madam Speaker, I also want to say that any kind of, so long as this is a very strong deterrent equipment or undertaking, we need something that can really put those ones who have ill intention away from what they want to do. It can be a trench, like last parliament, it would have said it can be a trench, it can be a wall, and it doesn't have to be a long wall of 800 kilometers. It can be specifically in a particular place where actually it's frequent by those ones who come with bad intention to Kenya. It can be maybe 100 kilometers, and specifically in those areas that are notorious for entry of the terrorists like Al-Shabaab. So, Madam Speaker, I want to say I support this, and I would like to talk when the actual debate comes for this particular agenda. Thank you.
Very well, the member for Samburu. Honourable members, we are debating on the proposed amendment as it was proposed. Then now we have my member for Mandela North. To the amendment, not to the...
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think I want to speak to the amendment. I want to support the amendment because it is very critical that the House to be seized of the matter that the amendment speaks to the fact that as a committee, we wanted the House to be informed of what is happening or what the Ministry of Defense is doing in regards to the border securitization project. So it was very critical that as a committee, we felt it on our own volition to really look at what is happening and bring information to the House in terms of status and not an inquiry. So it's very critical that the amendment as it is reflects the intention of the committee when we were delivering this report and even when we are going around to check on the projects. So it's like we went to see and now we are asking the House that this is what we saw for your information, and it's not a matter of us or the committee or the ministry for that matter asking for any approval. So I support the amendments. Thank you.
You support the amendment. The member for Kitui Rulo. Kitui Rulo, Honorable Boni Edi.
Yes, Madam Speaker, actually I wanted to contribute to the main debate, but I support the amendment.
Support the amendment,
yes.
However you really, but that one does not even deny you the chance to speak to the main. So you're right. The member for Kitui West, Honorable Edith Nyense.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also stand to support the amendment as proposed by the committee on the border, noticing that they actually visited the area and what they are saying is what they saw. This is very commendable. So I support and congratulate.
Very well. However, the amendment for record purpose is by the member for Nyaribari Church constituency, the Honorable Richard Tongi, MP. The other member on request is the member for Kwanza, Honorable Wanyonyi Kevin. You want to speak to the amendment?
No,
which you have already spoken to it. Actually, my record shows you've already spoken to it, and our standing orders do not allow us to speak twice. The member for Ladera, the Honorable Garane Ire.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I also want to support the amendments, but I wanted to speak to the main debate.
You have,
I support the amendment.
You support the amendment.
Yeah, thank
Just for record purpose and for guidance and also direction, honourable members, you can speak to the proposed amendment This does not deny you the chance to speak to the main motion. So you have both rights. The other member requesting to speak to this is a member for Kajiado South, the Honorable.
Thank you, Madam
Judah.
Speaker. Madam Speaker, I will also speak on the amendment.
Yes.
And as has been said by the mover, the main issue is even to change the title of the report from being an inquiry to being reporting of the status of the project. Because, Madam Speaker, what we did on our own volition, as required by our standing orders, on our own motion as a committee, we decided to bring ourselves up to date on the progress of the work being done on this project. And it is also good it's good to change the title, and anywhere where there is an inquiry in the report, be changed to the status of the Kenya-Somalia border securitization project, because it is a progress report, what has been done. It's also good for the House and for the records to know that this undertaking was done in September last year by the committee. So the status of the project that we are reporting is 6 months old from now, September last year. Maybe a lot of ground has been covered again from that time to now, which is six months. So it is good to note that, and you see the report was tabled on 20th November last year. So the progress report is as old as 6 months, and I'm sure a lot of ground have been covered again within those 6 months. It's also good we are all actually, as we said yesterday, this motion is not seeking for any approval from the House. And that's why we changed, we brought the amendment, instead of asking the House to adopt, we changed it to the House to note, because it is for information purposes. We are informing the House that this work is being done on this project. But it's also good to put the record straight, because, Madam Speaker, in the report, there was a tabulation of money spent on the project. But it's good for members to read that table very well and see the project since 2015 has been allocated money on an annual basis. So there is a column for how much has been allocated, how much has been spent, and what is unspent, and what is the total amount. Total amount is what was allocated. And from 2015 to date, 3.9 billion has been allocated to this project. But in the report, it shows very clearly, out of the 3.9 billion allocated, 1.7 has been spent. 1.7 billion has been spent. And I saw in yesterday's debate, some members, maybe they haven't read it well, and also that is what the media picked in today's newspapers, especially the Standard, is that 3.9 billion have been allocated, have been spent, and that is not the case. That is what has been allocated, but 1.7 has been spent. It's also good to inform the House that the project, and it is clearly indicated in the report, is divided into 3 sections: the southern, the northern, and the central section. And each section, one is 165 kilometers, another one is 105 kilometers, another one is 445 kilometers, bringing a total of 700 kilometers. And in each section, several works were being done. Some is bush clearing, another one is fencing, another one is digging the trenches. And the work that has been done using the 1.7 billion is that in one section, maybe 13.3 kilometers have been done of the fence. In another section, 50 kilometers or more has been done on bush clearing. In another section, several ditches have been dug, and it was part of the whole project. So that is how the expenditure has been broken down. Finally, Madam Speaker, is I think what there is the misconception. I think it is the word being used, the whole. From a layman point of view, everyone is looking at the wall, including the media. They thought, from a layman point of view, you need to have a concrete, a brick wall. And I think that was the terminology which was not conceived from the initial time right, because they are just using the word the wall, but they say in the project, the wall comprises of the fence, the concrete bricks, digging of the ditches, the bush clearing, the whole project now being called the wall. But from the layman point of view, if you hear of a wall, you think it is a wall that is going to be, concrete, bricks, and that is not the case. So, and because we will come back to the main report, if the House agrees with the amendment, we will be able to explain even in these sections. You find even the section of 445 kilometers, which is the longest, has got the lowest budget because of the terrain in that area. You may find a section which is short in distance, but the train there will cost a lot of money. And therefore, we just want the House to agree with the committee that this is a progressive report for information purposes. It is not an inquiry, and that's why we have brought this amendment. And again, it is good for the House to note, this was at September last year. We are now 6 months down the line, and a lot of ground have been covered. I support, Madam Speaker.
You support. Thank you, Honorable Metito. Support for that. Of course, the amendment was for the House to note. Honorable members, this amendment was moved procedurally, and there being no another member requested to speak to the amendment. Honorable members, I am not in a position to put the question to the proposed amendment, simply because the House is not properly constituted for the same. And I therefore direct that the question to the proposed amendment on the report on inquiry into the Kenya-Somalia border securitization project be deferred to the next sitting, as it will be slotted in our order paper. Members, with that, noting that we are not able to put the question to the amendment, and we have to dispose the amendment before we speak to the motion, number 13. Again, I direct that the order motion number 13, inquiry into the Kenya-Somalia border securitization project, be deferred. Next order.
Order number 14, motion. Ratification of the revised constitution of the African Civil Aviation Commission.
The chairperson, Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works, announcing. Honorable members, I'm sure, Honorable, yes, Cecily Barire, sorry, Cecily Barire, the deputy whip.
Madam Speaker, looks like the committee is not prepared and the chairman is not here. I would like to request that we move this particular agenda to the next sitting.
Very well, quite in order. The deputy majority whip, Honorable Cecily Barire, for that communication. Honorable members, the chairperson, Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works, announcing be not in the House, of course, I'm sure, following the deferring of motion number 9, members, I do order that motion number 14 be stood down, as requested by Honorable Cecily Barire. Next order.
Order number 15, motion. Inquiry into legislative and regulatory gaps affecting competition in the telecommunications subsector.
The chairperson, Departmental Committee on Communication, Information and Innovation. Honorable Cecily Barire, the Deputy Majority Whip of the House.
Madam Speaker, the same fate applies to this particular motion because the chair of the committee is not here.
Very well, very well. Following the communication from the leader, that is the Deputy Majority Whip of the House, honorable members, the chairperson, Departmental Committee on Communication, Information and Innovation, be not in the House, and of course, following that order number 14 was stood down, I order that same order, that is motion number 15, be stood down. Next order.
Order number 16, motion. Report on a meeting to promote and popularize the ratification of the protocol on the free movement of persons and its implementation roadmap.
Very well. Motion number 16, I call upon the chairperson, Departmental Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations. Again, Honorable Deputy Majority Whip, Honorable Cecily Barile, leadership. Give her the mic.
Yeah, Madam Speaker, I wish that this motion is stood down, just like the others, as the chair of the committee is not here.
Very well. With the chair of the committee is not in the House, and I'm sure, even if they were already guided by standing out motion number 13, 14, and 15, so it applies to motion number 16. And I therefore order that motion number 16, the report on a meeting to promote and popularize the ratification of the protocol on free movement of persons and its implementation roadmap, be stood down. Honorable members, this brings us to the end of the business on the order paper today, the Thursday, March 14, 2019 at 3:30 p.m. sitting. And there being no another business in our order papers, honorable members, and the time being 6:22, order members, order. I'm sure some of these members, the honorable member for Kaiti, the honorable member for Mboni, the member for Kitui, you stand guided that this is a house of rules, a house of procedures, and when the speaker is upstanding, you're also ordered and required to be upstanding. So, honorable members, the time being 6:22 p.m., this house stands adjourned till the Tuesday, March 19th, 2019 at 2:30 p.m. I thank you all, and so ordered.